right, guys, welcome back to another Wednesday night live. We have a special guest today, Nick Alderman. Is it
Orlando.
Orlando? I'm sorry, I'm thinking somebody else. Nick Orlando, and a regular cast: Brian, and Madison, Tim, and Tom. Welcome. What are you? Is your drink smoking over there?
Which is brew?
Oh,
Warlock brew. I don't know.
Tattooed, long-haired guys out in Georgia sacrificing animals and stuff like that. Nick, welcome to the show, Nick.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, Brian spoke highly of you, and I'm glad that he met up with you there in Washington, D.C., and asked you to come on the show, and that's great. Give you an opportunity here to tell everybody who you are and what the organization that you belong to. Let me put it up here so everybody can see it.
Okay.
Right there, the FSFA.
So, yep, you got it right. FSFA, it's a mouthful. A lot of people mess it up. So, Florida Smoke-Free Association. Again, thank you guys for having me. I am a business owner, became a member of the Florida Smoke-Free Association in 2014. Since then, I have been working with them as the vice president of the organization here in Florida. We lobby through our lobbyists in the state, and we do a little bit outside the state when we travel to DC. Smoked for 30 years, got up to 2 packs, worked just like most people, and decided to do the right thing and try to save some lives. Quit my job, went and opened up some vape shops. We're one of the first here in Pinellas County. Opened up with one showcase and a bunch of EVODs, and grew with the industry. There were no juice manufacturers at the time, so we were mixing on site, and did it the right way. In 2016, we stopped approximately 4 days before the regs dropped because we wanted to do the right thing. Focus on the smoker tobacco harm reduction, and by then we had some opportunities to bring in some lab-made e-liquid and make sure that we were legit, stay above board. So we did that. So we've been around since late 2012, focusing on the smoker and tobacco harm reduction, and the passion has grown into advocacy. So that's where we are today. My passion was more about the cause versus the coin, which is why I got into the industry, gave up a good job, and decided to do what was better for public health, while obviously making enough money to keep food on the table, pay the bills. I didn't do it for free, but I felt like something like that needed to happen. The word needed to get out. Built some great relationships over time, and brings us to today.
Yeah. And where are you located again? I'm sorry.
Our stores are in Florida, the west coast of Florida, Clearwater, Largo area, and we go down to Bradenton as well, which is Sarasota.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you had some good news today from Florida.
Oh yeah, last night we had some great news. We were fighting a bill from the 2020 session, 2019 session, 2020, sorry, and it all ran together. So you'll have to excuse me. It never stopped in 2019 when we started session, because we started right out of the gate. If you guys remember, there was a bill going on the ballot initiative for Amendment 9, which was paired up with offshore drilling. And
everybody knows about that bill.
That went into like nuts back in 2019. It never stopped until we ended up getting support from a legislator on some language that we assisted with that would have been reasonable regulation in the state. We supported that until House and Senate had 2 different bills. We had some outside interest on the Senate side. Obviously played a big role when they throw around $2 million in our state capital alone. It does sway some decisions and assist with some bill writing. However, we fought on the other side and supported a bill on the House side. And right at the last minute, we kind of got screwed, for lack of a better term, at the last minute. So it went to the governor. And obviously, working since 2014 in our state capital with some great lobby teams, we were able to bring on a couple of other people on board.
Nice.
other organizations like VTA, and some outside PR people. And it was a whole different lobby effort at that point. When it goes to the governor, we're no longer dealing with senators and representatives. It's a little bigger push, and it's one signature, not even a vote, no testimony. So it went there, and you guys may know we've been working on it for probably 4 months now, because we knew it was there, but he wasn't transmitting the bill until last Friday. Finally got it transmitted. He had 14 days to make a decision, and thankfully he made the right decision, because the messaging got there. Everybody, the vape community, the other state orgs, the national orgs, kind of pushed it, and he got the message. And he asked the right questions when we were talking, and based on the letter, and Brian asked me for that letter, so I know he's got it. The letter that he wrote, we know he received our message because it is pinpoint targeted at our messaging, and he didn't have to do that. He could have just silently, like over Labor Day weekend, passed the bill or vetoed the bill. But this man stood up and wrote that message in response to the bill. And it was as if a vapor, somebody from our community, wrote that response to a veto. It was amazing.
Yep.
So we're looking to support him on that.
Do you think that needs to be done more in other states? I think we should have some people that are involved in that process and writing those bills. And it just seems like some states get away with it and some don't. And it just doesn't make any, because I think you're like the second or third state that I've heard that advocacy groups within the state stepped up and helped these guys write their bills, the narrative for it. And it just seems like I know that, and I mean, Florida's not a small state. I mean, that's a big state. It's and it just seems like, well, Florida, you guys done it. New York, not New York, Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I'm trying to think of the third state. And I think
as far as helping with the language.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like you don't hear that more and more. I don't know if we just don't have strong enough groups in these other states, or
it's hard because I'm fortunate enough to have gotten involved in 14, right?
Yeah.
So having developed those relationships with our legislators, lawmakers, it's a little different when you go to the Capitol to have the meet and greets of the freshmen that are incoming as legislators, and you have, say, a small group of 10. You are now introduced by the people you have rapport with, right? So you're more welcomed in, and they're more apt to listen to your messaging. Now, they don't always agree, right? We only had 9 supporters, let's be honest, 9 supporters. So that's not a lot, right? But I think the goal is to get the organization to where you pick a lobbyist that can get you the key to that door and plan those visits to the Capitol. And you have to be active, and your people in your organization have to be motivated and active to do the right thing. Like I said, I was fortunate enough to step in at the right time and develop those relationships, as proven at this point. However, it got to the governor, right? And we're going to have a tougher fight. But so there's something to be said on both sides. As much as the best rapport we had 42 freshmen walk into our Capitol that know nothing. And those are all new people. So whoever they team up with and decide to buddy with is who is going to lead their kind of ideas for their influence there.
Yeah, start to influence them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just now, is that bill in any way, is there anything in that bill that might make things difficult for vapors, like price increase or nic levels, or is it just a straight no flavor ban, boom, get out of here?
This particular bill 810 was a disguised tobacco 21. So their main push was, we want to conform to federal laws at 21. Okay. However, there was permitting, taxation, and flavor ban tied in and intertwined with it.
Right.
So once we pointed that out to the legislators that we knew that were willing to listen, and our governor, it was very evident this was clearly a big tobacco bill, cut and dry, no question.
Yeah.
we know who crafted this bill based on the verbiage.
Right.
They knew too much. And the two big major sponsors of this bill were being termed out. So they really didn't give a damn the mess they were leaving behind. They got their check and they were ready to book. They don't care. But it went, and we told the governor and we told everybody else along the way, look, you're going to be left with a mess that you probably don't want to have.
Right.
But if this bill passes, the black market, the whole, losing jobs during COVID,
shops closing.
Yeah. So, we did actually VTA paid to have John Dunham do an economic analysis, and the major number of economic revenue that our industry brings to the state at last count was $605.6 million.
Wow.
Now, when you make a decision and you send this bill into law, on top of the tourism that's already crushed from COVID and everything else, you're going to be done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But people not everybody's thinking along those lines.
Right.
They don't care, right?
Yeah. They're
out there going, well, screw it, just vote, sign the bill. Well,
they're just trying to keep their corporate dollars coming in from their
right.
Yeah. But there was no hidden price increase or on milliliters or anything like that. It was just a basic. Yeah. Okay. That's good. Because
and no flavors. So nothing to tax, right? You're essentially.
Do you think that's coming? Do you think that's something that may be pushed later?
We're starting. We've already started today. We've started tomorrow. So our session doesn't end, right? We're getting ready for 2021, and we are already drafting for next session and trying to get a sponsor of the bills. We tendered 22 initiatives. Because if it's about youth, let's make it about youth.
Make it about youth.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we sat down with these people and we're tendering these same initiatives. We said, you know what? You got a tobacco license, let's get a vapor license. And that would clearly separate it, right?
Yeah.
That's all we want. Vapors don't want to be part of tobacco.
Yep.
So tobacco license in Florida is $50 a year. I'll give you 500. I'll give you 1,000 a year per every one of my locations. Keep me separate, make me legit, take that $1,000, which equates to $1.5 million throughout the state, fund enforcement, and do the right thing with it. And we're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But they couldn't get that in their head. And you know what? You don't even need that much. Just fund some enforcement, throw the rest in your pocket. I don't give a damn, but let us become legit and separate us, right?
Right. Well, that's not, they'll never do that, though, because the FDA made sure of that.
Yeah, federally, it's all
2016.
mixed.
They made sure of that, and that was, it was the worst of two evils we had to choose in 2016, and that's the route we. Yeah,
can do that though.
Yeah. Oh, the governor could he? Yeah, I guess he could, couldn't he? But then the federal government could pull some money from them. So, most states are not going to say no. Don't give us free money.
Well, I don't know if they could money from them.
But I think the agenda would have to match, though, right? I mean, the agenda would have to align. I mean, if Florida says, "Okay, we're going to abide by a tobacco 21," even though we know that the FDA has control over whatever's regulated under the guise of tobacco, but if Florida says, we're not gonna ban flavors. And you've got the federal government worried about PMTA. I mean, in theory, the PMTA is not about a ban. It's about approvals and legalization. So as long as the federal government's not going for a flavor ban, which they're not theoretically doing right now, then Florida's not under any threat because they have their sovereignty to govern that way.
Right.
We're in a unique situation. We're not part of the MSA. Right, we were one of the original.
You guys got your money up front. You guys got all your money up front in the beginning,
except for the per cigarette. So they're making 2 cents a cigarette.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So then take that times millions.
Yeah, it does.
It's every state's got that too. Plus the general, the monthly, the yearly. Yeah.
Every smoker has done the math with their cigarettes. Every time there was an increase, we always broke it down per cigarette. I remember doing that. It's like, okay, I paid 75 cents for a pack of cigarettes. I knew how much each cigarette. When it got to $5, $10 a cigarette, pack of cigarettes, and we started breaking it. Hey, can I buy a cigarette? You got $1? You got $1? I'll give you a cigarette.
Well, it's not only the state tax that's on there, but it's also they also get money back per pack they sell, plus they get per year per year, plus they get like it just compounds continuously.
Yeah, it's just like California, the way California.
Yeah, and North Dakota's on the low end of that. Like we get what's 20 million, something like that a year, I think it is.
Yeah,
and that's on the very low end here.
There's not billion.
Yeah, California got $9 billion. In 2019 or 2018, they got $9 billion.
Yeah.
And I love it. I see that post. I see that. I read that article. California gets $9 billion for MFA. And then 2 days later, Newsom comes on and says they're $7 billion in debt. I'm like, how the fuck does that work out, man?
Something happened here.
Yes, there's some problem with some math there.
What's going on? And of course, everybody's got their hands in the pockets, right? So you got the people there, the heart, lung, and cancer. They're all standing there going, "Hey, we want them as tobacco. We want some of that money. We don't want to lose any funding." So they're all over us too. But
Megan's ready to move to Florida, she says.
Yeah, North Dakota was 21 million in 2019, 21.3 million in 2020. In 2018, there was 53 million. 2017, 31 million.
So you had more money that came in when the oil was booming and less when the oil crashes.
Yeah, the hurricane thing could be a problem.
It definitely would be.
Yeah. Well, is that I don't know the geographics of, but is the hurricane all parts of Florida, or is it just certain sections get it worse than others?
It's
all of it, John. Pay attention to the news, man. Get out of California.
Well, I don't really pay attention. I mean, I see them hurricane, but I don't really pay attention to where they're located at. And I was wondering.
Well, they all track differently, and they all will impact. I mean, if you consider Florida being a peninsula, I mean, typically they're either going to go to the eastern shore and curve back out. Of course, I'm backwards on the camera, or they could come up the Gulf, somewhere in between Mexico and the other part of the panhandle, right? So they could it hits in all different places. I mean, this last one like completely skirted Atlanta. It's like it came and it shot up through Louisiana, and it kind of did this hard button hook and went all the way around us.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
it didn't want nothing to do with you guys.
It didn't want nothing to do with you.
I mean, that hurricane hit the southern portion of Illinois. So I mean,
that's fine.
I mean, if you think about it, a lot of like the Cat 4 and Cat 5 hurricanes, when you look at them, look wider than the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So they could get it everywhere.
I'll take the higher taxes. I'll take the higher taxes and a few earthquakes every now and then.
Exactly, Megan.
And your forest fires.
They come across from the east, they get out in the Gulf, they turn around and go west. It's nuts.
They're all unpredictable.
Plus, you guys have all those snakes that run wild. No, thank you.
Snake.
Good.
Snakes.
Good. I don't like snakes.
What's wrong with snakes?
Coyotes.
Gators, I don't mind. They're
Snakes,
large enough.
moose,
I can see them.
Too many retired people driving.
Plus, you got the infamous Florida man that eats bath salts and does stupid shit.
85-year-old guy in the big Cadillac Eldorado going 35 miles an hour on the freeway.
All right. So I have a question. You said that some of your advocacy work takes you outside of the state of Florida and up into DC. What are those for the greater good, the collective, or does that address Florida issues specifically when you go to DC?
Tim, it's both. We've gone and done the collective thing, but we've spoken to legislators up there, right? But then we make sidebar meetings with our own states' representatives, and we go in and try to meet with them or their staffers while we're there. It's kind of, I don't go up there too often, but when I do, I try to make the best of it. We try to hit everything. But we've gone for the federal stuff. and we've gone for state stuff, kind of getting that support, you know?
Well, I think the only reason I'm sort of alluding to it is a couple reasons. One, I was literally in shock when I read DeSantis's response to his veto. It was almost, and I'm not saying he plagiarized. I feel like he actually just listened, but it was almost verbatim all the warnings and all of the red flags that we've been putting up for quite some time, and all of the verbiage and the language that we've been sharing and trying to get through to a lot of other people in the government. I certainly don't try to play sides to either side of an aisle here, but I feel like one of the things that's been missing tremendously in this entire fight has been a lack of a voice from the vaping community inside the government's walls. So I realize that it's not that easy or convenient to get into those positions. But like I was saying, I was interested in why your trips, what impact your trips to DC may have made, because if you're able to get on the inside locally in your state, maybe that led to some additional connections up in DC. I'm trying to get you a job. No, I'm joking.
He's trying to get you. He's trying to make you become a lobbyist and get a full-time gig there in Washington, a summer home,
The pay is terrible. So Tim, it's everything you said, man. I mean, you never know what kind of impact you're going to have when you go meet with somebody, but it definitely plants a seed. What they do with it is up to them or their staffer, right? Some of them we will meet with, they get the seed and they'll turn around and tell their staffer, hey, can you go research this? This guy told me this. I think he's full of crap. Go look at it. And then it starts, So it's a hard question to answer, because I don't know what their response is going to be and what it might lead them to.
Yeah.
But I think it's effective every time we do it, because the moment we have a conversation with somebody, it leaves them with something.
Yeah.
Well, it's obvious that you guys have a very unified vape community, not just vape community there, but also shops, because it takes the shops as well to send that message out to their customers. And it sounds like the shops there in Florida are doing just that. I mean, to influence the governor, he's seeing it. I'm sure that he got hammered with emails from customers there in the state of Florida. I don't know if was there even does anybody remember, was there a call to action
for Florida? Probably was.
I can't.
But I didn't hear anything. I
didn't see a call.
Well, no, I take that back. I'm confusing that with the Chicago legislation.
Right. I saw CASA had called to action several times.
There was a lot of noise on 810. There was a ton of noise on 810. Calls to action for people to speak up. I don't know what impact external people from the state would have, or how that plays in, because nothing comes to me to direct. I mean, there's nothing for me to send to my governor or my senator in that case.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, it's obvious that the shops are doing their jobs there, and they're actually talking to their customers and letting them know what's going on. Where I think a lot of these states, I'm even going to put mine out there because I've seen it firsthand, and I've been in a lot of shops out here in Central Valley and Northern California, even in LA, where there's not a single post or piece of paper about advocacy. There's not even talks of advocacy in the shops, and it's good to see. Well, that is a fair point. To the people watching the show, I shared a screenshot from a group that I'm in today. And there was sort of a generic question in the group, it was like something to the effect of well, what happened with the whole ban thing, right? Because we're getting a lot of portable language going on throughout all of this chaos. I mean, there are bans, state bans, city bans, localized bans, but this person was more or less addressing the PMTA. Anyway, I kind of responded in the sense, I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the PMTA? Are you talking about localized bans? We can talk about whichever one you want to. And they said they went into a shop today and asked the local employees,
you know, what's going to change tomorrow for you guys when this deadline is gone. And the employee responded that they didn't know anything about what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And I mean, just that response alone, I'm sitting there beside myself. I'm like, those are the last places that shouldn't know anything.
Right.
They should be. I mean, it's not just about us, the people who partake in the whole
that
lifestyle.
That shop owner is already thinking 6 months down the road. He's already got a head shop designed and ready to go.
Well,
and,
he might, but my point is, he's got people employed with him that are completely in the dark. And it's not so much that you want to educate an employee to be like, oh yeah, and maybe scare off customers because of something that's sort of looming. My point is if a shop employee who got that job, it's one thing to work for a Hallmark card store because you need a job. A kid that goes and gets a job at a vape shop, he or she is there because they vape.
Right.
I guarantee you, they vape, right? So if they don't know working for that employer or of the levity of what's about to happen, I feel sorry for them that they don't understand what's going to happen to their lives, right? I mean, they're going to be severely affected as an individual, not let alone an employee.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, one thing I'm like when I manage shops is that I felt like it was my duty to make sure that my employees were informed of all the regulations that was coming. Like I managed shops during the 8816 mark. I was there from before that and after that, and our shops dramatically changed. But the thing is, I kept people informed. What I did is when the FDA came out with their big binder of all their pages, I kept that whole stack on our counter the entire time and informed the customers this is what the FDA is doing. They didn't want to read it all, and I highlighted a few things. I'm like, here's what they want to do. Here's actually what they're doing, and here's why they're doing it. This is totally unfair, out of my control, but you have the voice to help change that. Yeah. And that was my role as like the manager of the shop, to make sure that everyone was informed of all the things. And I think that if employees don't know and customers don't know, it does fall a lot on the shop owners, shop managers. Like they should be the ones informing people. That's just my 2 cents on that.
So Nick, are you getting any help? Are you being asked for any help from other states? Like not just shops, but organizations, kind of help them along to how to work the process, because you're going to get that now since you guys did get your bill passed. It didn't pass.
We do have we're linked up with the other states, the ones that have smoke-free trade associations.
Yeah.
We're all close. So the leadership will usually, if they have something going on, they'll bounce it off of the group or whatever. So we're pretty tight-knit group, and we have AVA and all those guys in there as well. It's just kind of, hey, here's what's going on. How should we handle it? What should we do? So that's been going on. James over at OHVTA, I've gone up there and spoken in front of his group before, in front of the legislators. We've had stuff go on at the Chamber of Commerce there. He's invited us up to talk, and we're available. That's for sure.
Oh, you guys were successful, and that hopefully sends the message out to other states that maybe they should do some talking with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably the goal here, right? I mean, it may not be able to help in other states or whatever, but I mean, the verbiage can be shared, or the approach, or the strategy, or the messaging can be shared, right? Because I think everybody's got a different approach sometimes. And if the messaging is consistent, or the strategy is consistent, at least in the situation where one has worked, then you pass that on.
Tim, that's a very good point. Here's where the problem lies, right? The strategy that the states have to put in is funding. So in order to get that key to the door to be able to have these conversations, and I hate to say it because, look, I started out as a vape shop owner. I'm not into this political crap. I just ended up in it, right? I can't stand it. When I got to go home and take a shower. It's disgusting, it's filthy, and I friggin' hate it. And I'm just being I gotta be with people that keep a filter on me because I really can't stand these friggin' people. Okay, the majority of them, right? They're not real. But it's money, man. The states need funding. The states need membership, and a lot of people say it, but look, I'll tell you right now, we're well in over $250,000 to this campaign, let alone every year our regular lobbyists, just for this campaign. So funding now, our butt's on the line for that because, I told everybody, we need you. We need to kill this. We'll come around and take care of the finances later. But, people like the VTA threw all their resources at it.
Yeah.
Lindsey Stroud came in and threw a bunch of resources at it. Sofrata was on board with us. Our PR firm, our new PR firm, it took a group effort, right? Because we need everybody's resources. And not only that, I mean, you get somebody like Lindsey Stroud and Bill Tarling, these people are like research fanatical. So when you're talking numbers, that's what the government understands. And we can break it down 6 ways to Sunday and give it to them. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy, but I know somebody who can. So they threw all those resources, and I'm not saying we owe them money, but the people these states have to pay are the people outside of our bubble, right? Outside the echo chambers where we have the best success. We're powerful as vapors in the community, but we, in this case and other cases, in most cases, you got to get outside that bubble to really get an initiative pushed. Our PR firm did a very good job of that. Yeah, it's costing us, but I mean, when you're doing commercials in our city's capital city, and people are seeing that on TV, where they live, where they stay during session, they're watching a commercial on positive impact of vapor products. Right. When you're geofencing, when you're getting in the ears of the staff of a governor, when you're constantly tweeting to people outside of our bubble, legislators, staffers, lawmakers, that is something we can't do. I don't know any state org that can because we don't have that reach. So the biggest thing is funding, and that's the point of the whole thing, is that this was successful because of outside the bubble. Now, our community played an important role by being those numbers, right? Because we send the pictures of Veto 810. We tweeted the governor. We tweeted legislators. Now they can look at those numbers and say, see those people? These are the people you're going to affect. But without the two pieces, you either get all the voices or you get the guy behind the funding that can't speak to those. So it's like, sometimes I'll go to Tallahassee and I'm speaking to them. I'm like, I represent 1,200 shops in the state of Florida. And they're like, all right, but there's 5 of you here. Where are they at? I represent 1 million vapors. Okay, there's 5 of you. Where are these vapors you speak of? Nick, this is the 5th year you're here telling me you got 1 million people. I don't see them.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Get out there.
So I have a question. So as a consumer, so I'm here right outside of Chicago, and this whole Chicago thing is going to be interesting because that bill to do the vapor ban or flavor ban in Illinois was not killed. It's still very much active and sitting in the House committee. And that mayor and that governor, I mean, they are on press conferences with each other almost daily. Mm-hmm. So they are buddy. And pretty much anybody here in Illinois is going to know Chicago is Illinois. Yeah. As sad as that is, that's kind of how that becomes. So I go to vape shops here and they know absolutely nothing. So as a consumer, especially with having that letter, like I did what you suggested earlier on your show, I retweeted it to the mayor, what DeSantos's letter was.
Right.
So should me as a consumer, do you think it would be wise to email this to vape shops and say, this is what DeSantos has done. Please send this to our mayor. You are a frontline defense to the governor, and just start reacting that way?
I would even take it to the vape shops.
I would definitely do that with shops. I would share it. I'd put copies of it on the counter, or even do some kind of initiative with shops. Now, I don't know how many shops you go to or the state org there. You guys have coil. SF Coil or something there. What are they?
Oh,
I have no idea.
I thought it was FFA.
Well, in Chicago, they've also got Bombsicle e-juice is based out of there too.
Yeah, but who's the state org?
That is a good question.
Brian, look it up.
Already on it.
Brian's our Google guy.
Because I know it's still not on CASA's website. I just checked. Chicago is definitely not on CASA's website right now.
Well, you should email them because that's how we've all been told how CASA works. So
How do I email them?
there should be a section there on CASA's page where you leave information. I forget where it's at. Let me pull.
Oh
it
wait,
up.
I found their Facebook page.
And you can just write, hey, what's going on in Chicago or whatever. You word it the way you want to word it, and they'll look into it. And I'm sure there'll be a call to action tomorrow or something.
Hey, Alex, we need help.
Yeah. Hey, Chicago, take a look at what's going on in Illinois or Chicago.
Tony was in the Capitol today, I guess, doing something with BPA, but SFA Coil, SFA Coil was the organization there. I think it's SFA Coil, but I'm not sure.
Do you think it's getting harder for us to send our message out with Big Tobacco buying portions of our industry? Because that's their card. That's what everyone's using against us. Is we can't trust Big Tobacco. Look what Big Tobacco's doing. They're buying these companies, and now vaping isn't the mom and pop stores. It's the big corporations of Big Tobacco. I mean, do you feel that's getting harder for us to send our message out because of that?
Don't think so, because I think we can still clearly define the mom and pops from the Big Tobacco based on the physical looks of the businesses, right? So you can tell when Big Tobacco comes in and buys a company, the dynamic changes, right? The visual appearance changes of the marketing, of the actual look of the whole product, what they're carrying. So I still use it, and it was successful. We clearly identify our people as the shop owners here in Florida or mom and pop. We sell these systems, these open systems.
Right.
You can refill, and that blows their mind because they're so used to closed systems.
Right. Yeah.
In every gas station around the town, they're mom and pop businesses too. But the difference is I do show and tell. I'll bring a case, and Maddie probably saw it earlier on the show that I was doing. I broke out the case and I said, look, here's a Cigalike, here's a Juul, here's a open system, here's a battery, here's a THC cart, empty. Here's what they put in it. They fill it with vitamin E acetate, and they just walk them through the whole process, and their mind is blown because they think the disposables and the Juuls are what we are.
Yep.
Yeah. When you first sit down with them and to start defining the difference, and there's no step down, and these things, that it kind of blows their mind. Yeah. Because they know the narrative of Big Tobacco, and they know the goal of Big Tobacco because they've proven it over time, right?
For hundreds of years.
So they know that it's time, go out and hook them, bring them, and keep them. Ours is, and one of my things that I tell them is I have the craziest business model. I bring them in, I get them off combustible, I step them down and out, and they're done. And they're like, well, why do you do that? It's like, because there's 40 million friggin' smokers out there. I got plenty of clients. I don't need to hook these people and keep them.
Nope.
So, when we have those conversations, that's when things start going, the light bulbs go off.
Yeah, a lot of those people don't even realize there's zero e-liquids out there.
Right.
They're like, well, why are they still doing it? I said, well, you got to remember it was a ritual when you smoked. There's a whole thing about it, about your hand, your mouth, everything goes together. Whether you don't need the nicotine anymore, you still might have a hard time fighting off that old habit of just having something in your hand and, bringing it to your mouth and seeing smoke or vapor.
People ask me all the time, and mostly it's legislators. Well, if this does all that, why do you still smoke? Because I like smoking.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah. We
I
all did.
now.
Mhm.
It's just now I can enjoy it in a less harmful manner, and I can always change my flavors. It doesn't always taste like an ashtray.
That's
Right.
That's
So
right.
I enjoy smoking. I really, truly enjoyed smoking cigars, cigarettes, pipes, whatever.
Yeah.
But now I have the choice to
Yeah.
change it in my device. I can make it whatever flavor I want and sit back and
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like the lovely coconut rum eggnog.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that that's also part of their problem is they're not none of them are educated or involved in the industry or the community or the lifestyle or any of that. I mean, they've got their own other 99 problems that they want to deal with, but they're unwilling as individuals. They're unwilling in the positions that they are to parse things out, right? So they're going to ask a dumb question like that. Well, I mean, if it's a cessation method, why aren't you just vaping to be done? To me, it looks like you're still hooked on it.
Or
Or
why aren't you using any of the other countless approved cessation methods?
Yeah.
right. And I think that's an individual's journey, right? Because it's difficult for us to really kind of argue that point sometimes because we kind of stand on our platform of like, oh, you can't ban vaping because it gets people off of smoking. It's saving lives. Well, that's factual information. Whether or not you vape for 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, whether it's 6 milligram, 3 milligram, or 0, Nick, the point of the matter is you're off of smoking and you've led yourself to a much healthier lifestyle than you previously had. You no longer become part of that same statistic. So,
Right.
but they're going to bring that argument up. I mean, because that's what it sounds like what we're fighting for. We're saying, no, you got to keep it because it gets people off of smoking. And in their mind, they think, well, that ultimately means they're going to quit smoking. And that's not necessarily the case. So I think that sometimes maybe that gets lost in the messaging as well because they just see it as an addiction to something else or a continuation of an addiction. Yeah, okay, it's not cigarette smoke, but you're still vaping nicotine. You're still addicted to something, So I don't know. The waters get a little muddied at times too, I think.
Well, the thing about that is here's kind of two ways to look at it. Is one, how many new people or new friends have I met along my journey? Would I trade that, off of something else? No. I'm like the people I've met are genuine people. They care for something. They stand for something. They want to help other people, not just themselves.
Right.
Two, with the vaping stuff, the thing is though is that nicotine isn't the thing that's killing everybody. So there's the other thing too. It's you just eliminated all the stuff that has the high potential of causing the cancer, causing the deaths and all that stuff. And you've just eliminated it.
Yeah,
So,
but I guess my point is that sometimes these people live in a silo of their own. They kind of have tunnel vision, and they just sort of like see it for what they think it is. They think it's trading one addiction for another, and I've seen that argument come up several times. Brian, I'm in the same army with you. I think that we are all at the surface level a lot of genuine people who have a success story to share, and we try to pass on that experience and that knowledge to other people to help them. So I mean, we're all empaths in that regard. I'm just talking about when you're fighting the greater fight and they have their opposition to you. They're like, well, it's still nicotine. You're still addicted. And it's like, well, I bet you go home to your Sky vodka and and you have your little drinky drink to calm down. Maybe maybe I don't like to drink. Maybe I like to vape,
Yeah.
But,
well, the thing about addiction of anything, it's sometimes there's a far end of addiction where it's like you chase a high, you chase something. And sometimes an addiction is just, you use it here and there, like you're talking about drinking and all that stuff. Sometimes people just, I have this times too where I'm like, I just want to have a beer.
Yeah,
Why? I just want to just sit and chill and have
like
a
every
beer.
time you're on the show.
It's just
Yeah,
just like the guy that has to have that pot of fucking coffee.
I mean,
and it's not just coffee; it's effing coffee.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, caffeine is in the same boat.
At least two.
I'm that guy.
But I mean, you've got like if you take like the car scene, you've got people who chase the high of racing fast or drifting faster, or getting closer, or making the cars go faster. Like you've got that. That is essential of addiction too,
Yeah.
but it's not a harmful addiction. You know what I mean?
And-
So like,
Well, it can be.
Yeah.
Coffee,
Well,
nicotine, drifting.
Hold
Damn.
on. I'd like to
Brian,
get Nick's thoughts on the DC rally a little bit. You want to touch on that a little bit and how you felt it all went?
Look, I thought the DC rally went very well. There were probably 200, 300 people there, but the group that was there was very powerful. The speakers were great. But I think the bigger picture was the people, based on our current country's pandemic, staying at home and being able to work the lines and emails and tweets was even bigger. So I think it was a very effective event. And I don't think that the numbers being in DC had any effect on the overall effectiveness of the event and the rally.
Yeah.
I think our message got across, and I think it was pretty strong.
Did the rally get any generalized media coverage, or was it mostly silent on that front?
Thanks for stealing my question. I'm just kidding, too.
there was a few newspapers there, articles I've read so far. I didn't fully read them. I did see that there was some out there. Kara is one that shared a few of them that was out there. I did skim through a few of those. It didn't seem like they were.
Was there any media, big NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox?
Not that I saw.
Nothing. Yeah.
I don't know if Nick saw anything.
No, they weren't on scene, but they did make some blurps over it. On their broadcast, they did say that there was a Vapors rally there, and it went very peaceful. I did see some stuff flying across about that, but
yeah,
very good.
Yeah, at least, and I watched literally the whole thing before I left to go out. So I'm happy that we didn't get the mostly peaceful tag.
Yeah,
it was entirely peaceful.
It was entirely.
I mean, if you're going to talk about having a protest of any kind, that's
Right,
where it
yeah.
should go.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Elliott was probably the most ominous individual
At the rally.
at the whole rally.
yeah.
Well, they did say that too. That was like the best line on the rally right there. This is the most peaceful protest Washington, D.C. has had in months.
That was from what Connolly said that, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But a good
I
group.
tried
I mean, we had people from Australia speaking, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But I think that's just in the that's a testament to the community, right? Because it extends beyond the borders of this land. I mean, you have a lot of people that are on the same journey who share the same similar struggles in their own countries. I mean, look at where Australia was not just recently. I mean, they were on the brink of literally not having anything. Look at India. I mean, they wipe that stuff right off the face of the planet in the stroke of a pen. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's quite incredible how large the community is, and how we all reach out to help each other.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that the politicians are sort of blind to all that. They don't see any of that.
Yeah. Well, Shannon put a point there. She did speak there. However, I did not recognize who she was because her profile picture here on YouTube does not look like who she is.
Because she was wearing a mask.
Speaking, and I really, really appreciate people who sit there and speak. And she is a great person for doing that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it. She did hop up there as one of the consumer speakers, did an amazing job.
Yep.
And that was a lot of the powerful stuff, Tim, is that they were there from consumers, right?
Yep.
And, I'm sure you guys saw a lot of the consumers there speaking. Bumgarner was there, and he's an amazing story just by himself. But we had the advocates there, and we had people from across the globe there. And they read one of Paul's from Australia. Now, Australia's gotten pretty hammered up, but
yeah,
they know that, whatever happens here will resonate. So that's why, people actually pay attention to what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
I just noticed Brian's name. Brian.
What I loved up there too was
I just noticed what it said there.
what I loved about the speakers too is they were all different ages, especially that old timing vet that you had up there. That was absolutely fantastic. I mean, for me as a vet, that was like great to have him up there because I was watching it from Patrick's YouTube and like I made the comment there, I was like, you go, brother, like we fought for our freedoms for a reason. But it was just nice to see that, he was an elderly aged person that this has done a tremendous help for him because everybody thinks that this is a millennial thing, this is a hipster thing, and it was nice to have that image out there that no, this is to help everybody of every single age. You're not just affecting the young people, but you are affecting the elderly people who do have massive complications from smoking their whole life away.
Yeah, and the one part that I don't get, like when they do see an older vapor that quit smoking, say someone in their mid 60s or late 70s or 80s, and they're like, well, why don't you try some of the other stuff? And I start thinking to myself, really? You want that person that goes try one of these prescription drugs that has all these side effects, and this guy is 65, 70 years old, might not even be in the best of health in the first place, and now you want him to go try something that's going to make him hallucinate or have
suicidal thoughts and tendencies
and I'm like thinking, oh, put a patch on. I just started laughing. It's just like, okay, what's this patch going to do to this guy's 75 years old? What is this patch going to do to this guy?
But I mean, and that's another part about sometimes the society that frustrates me is just being another human being on this planet, and that is that you have someone like that, and I've seen other multiple videos of people who are elderly and they openly admit they've been smoking for 40, 50 years, and they have OPD and all these other complications, and they find something that gets them off of that, and it's like they're almost criticized for it. It just frustrates. Like we don't laud someone's success story, however that might be. It's like you just would rather chastise them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Nick, that lady you guys had on your show earlier today, what an amazing story she had where she was, what would she say? She was basically told that if she smoked again, she would be dead. And a coworker told her to start vaping. And what she said was like a couple of years later, they did a scan and her lungs looked like she had never smoked ever.
Yep.
It was amazing. That was a very touching story that she gave.
That was Sherry Dorsey. Yeah.
That's another thing I wanted to bring up. It's just like, I mean, I don't know how many of us are getting lung scans and stuff like that, but I mean, it's just like, why, all right, maybe you can answer. Where are the doctors? Why are we not pursuing doctors to send our message?
We do.
It's corporate pharmaceutical companies in their back pocket. I get all that part, but there's got to be a doctor out there that doesn't give a shit about that and just says,
Dr. People, Dr. Rodu,
yeah,
they're not afraid, but you get these private doctors, man, they will not come out publicly. I have doctors send people to me all the time, but they will not go out publicly and make that statement.
They're scared.
And there's also studies that are done from the National Institute of Health too on vaping that are not being showed and broadcast out. I mean, there's several studies that I can name off of. They did studies off of COPD with somebody who was a smoker and somebody who was a smoker / vapor or just a complete vapor or somebody who didn't do anything at all. And they showed huge health benefits, even with people with emphysema and COPD, that if they just went vaping, had a huge health benefit than somebody who stayed smoking. So
I found amusing as soon as we start talking doctors. Tim's like, "Nope, I'm out of here. Screw this."
Yeah,
Hey,
no,
me and
not-
Tim are that
don't
we're at
don't
that
touch
age
me.
where we really need.
I don't
we
care
really
if
need
this
doctors.
mole is cancerous. I'm leaving.
We're
No, I'm joking.
52. We have to see a doctor every year now. So, yeah,
That was my bad. I was multitasking. And
I mean, because there are
overclicked.
lots of people that I know and that are actually. I think what's his name has done it. I think Grim Green has talked about his scans. Like he got one when he first started when he was smoking, and what it looks like today. And it's just like, to me, maybe I'm just being naive, but like if I'm a doctor and I see those types of results, I mean, I know you got the big house and the car and fucking all that other shit, but I mean, there's got to be that doctor that wants to do borders. What is that? Doctors and Borders. That
Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah, taking the big pay cut to live out in in Africa or wherever. But I mean, it's just shocking to me that more doctors here in the U.S. I want to say the U.S. don't say, "Holy shit!" Look at
That's
this.
because they don't want to lose their funding.
This is a 40-50% improvement.
you also have a big problem too, is that it comes down to a lot of times the FDA. So like take for example CBD, right? A lot of doctors can't recommend you taking that because it's a supplement. They can't say that it's going to cure it because of the way the FDA has classified that particular thing. So,
well, I'm not expecting a doctor to say it's going to cure it, but a doctor can say, "Here, this is his CT, this is his lung scan from 10 years ago. He's been vaping a year. Here, look at these lungs," and it's just like, I mean, I guess I am being naive.
Do you go?
John.
Here's a collective question. Do you feel like, even if it's not about big pharma or getting kickbacks from pushing other medications, do you guys think that in other circles that certain doctors are afraid to talk because of fear of being blackballed or being called frauds or passing negative, the false information? Do you think that there's like an internal battle that goes on in the medical community that prevents people from speaking out sometimes?
So
go ahead.
I would say somebody who's worked in the healthcare industry and with watching, just not even with tobacco, just anything, like look at the virus alone.
Yeah.
The word doctor, people go, "Oh, used to be like that's doctor's words." But the thing is a lot of times now it's what kind of doctor you are. So we would need pulmonologists on our sides and stuff like that. And at that point, they're very far few in between, and you really have to get a hold of one of them to do these kind of studies. Because if if a family doctor or an internalist or a neurologist were to come out and say, "Oh yeah, vaping is great," somebody in the public or some senator or some politician's going to spin it and say, "Well, how would you know? You're a neurologist, you're a brain doctor, you're not a pulmonologist, you don't know how the lungs function," even though common sense is their first 4 years of schooling exactly the same. Anatomy and physiology is exactly the same. And a lot of times with doctors, their very first years of being a doctor is also exactly the same too, before they start branching off into their other, areas that they have to go to.
Their specialties.
Specialize.
But they'll spin it. So a lot of doctors too are very afraid of going out and saying something because they're going to get it spinned back on them. Well, you're just that kind of doctor, because people like to put them in a box and say, "Oh, this is your subject area. You don't know anything about this part of medicine." And so I think some doctors are a little afraid of that because they're not of that specialty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to take the whole thing in, right? I mean, a pulmonologist could assess the health benefits or the stresses on the lungs and say, well, as a smoker, we can document exactly what that looks like. But let's take a smoker who I had a before and here's an after, and now they're vaping. And then from a pulmonary perspective, they can say, yes, there's been an incredible health benefit to them based on vaping. But then you also have, the other person who looks at, brain issues, and then we have to attack the whole nicotine thing about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what blood
Or
pressure.
other things that are not pulmonary that might, that we always have to throw into the argument and the propaganda that we see about the metals and the formaldehydes, and those things aren't necessarily a pulmonary
Sweetener.
thing, right? Those could be
I think,
those could affect us other ways.
Go ahead,
Tim, I
Nick.
think if they had a way to prescribe a certain form of e-liquid, whether it's one line or whatever, or a couple of them, we'd have a lot better chance. I think that our
it's true.
industry is so broad that they can't get their hands around it. First of all, none of it's right now FDA, approved in their mind. Now the PMTAs are up. So if we get to a point where we are registered, FDA approved, then I think they can kind of start prescribing it. But if a doctor can't prescribe something, that creates a whole other element because they can't get behind it. So they don't want to stand behind the industry because they don't have anything they can prescribe, right? And that's the way they're trained. And they're not going to tell you to go out and go to Joey's vape shop and pick up a bottle of Blue Raz 3 Nick, and that's going to help you.
Blue Raz.
Then they're liable, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
It all comes down to insurance reasons too.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge problem until the insurance and we get our shit together and we figure out as a country what are we doing here, because we're viewed as rebels. I mean, let's face it, right?
Yeah.
We rose from the ashes. We're a bunch of derelicts. We come from every form of demographic in our country. They can't get a handle on us. We grew too fast, and for a stand up on something.
Went from grassroots.
So then that leads me to another question, because of course I don't know everything, so I never claim to. But do you think
that's a lie?
Do you think what happens initially is some sort of I'm going to say global, which is probably a lot more narrow than global, but like a sanctioned sort of bottleneck, right? They're going to find some products that they agree on, say whether it's flavors or the source of the PG, the VG, and the nicotine, and they go, well, these ones we can agree with. And then that allows other manufacturers to say, okay, well, we can now work in this box. We can create your favorite flavor, but we have to do it based on this narrow block of products that the FDA is okay with. Do you see that as being something that happens, or no?
Yeah, that kind of feeds off a question I had, but keep going.
Whose question?
No, the question is to Nick.
Oh, no, I don't see that happening.
Okay.
I see them kicking around the can with a bunch of these weird ideas, depending on whose narrative they're using, whether it's Azar or Gottlieb, or pick your flavor, and they're going to throw stuff at us and make us jump through hoops. They're never going to get to the bottom of what we're sending them, even for the PMTAs. So they're going to either cast net it and say it's outlawed, or they're going to keep kicking around an idea on it. How the hell do we get under control here? Because they're so behind the 8 ball that they never will. Then when they do something like that, it's going to create a black market. We're just going to go on and do what we used to do back in the old days.
Right.
And I'm just being real. And that's my opinion. I don't know all the answers either, but I'm just saying that I don't see any guidance to be able to conform to from an industry standpoint.
I don't think that they'll ever have a handle on that. I don't think that they would literally have to implant somebody in the industry to spend, or a committee of people to spend time in the industry, an unbiased view, and spend time with multiple manufacturers gathering tons of information to understand where their sources come from and understand over a longer period the impact that that it's playing. But I'll be willing to bet that it's like computer parts, right? Like when you go and you get your Sony TV and you need it fixed, but you got your Vizio over here and you need it fixed, somehow everything gets sourced back to some localized place, right? I mean, one person is manufacturing the boards, one person is manufacturing the chips, or maybe somebody's buying cheaper chips than the other guy. I mean, it's all tiered, right? But
So
go ahead.
you're 100% accurate. I don't mean to cut you off, but
No, please.
you are where you're going is perfect, because if you think about it, if any one of them outside, and I say them, but anybody outside of our industry that hasn't kind of grown within, they'll never catch up to where some of us are, right? I mean, they haven't been through it. They don't have that experience. You can read books all the hell you want, but are you going to get that knowledge that you need to do the right thing for the industry from reading a book? I don't think so. If you're not a smoker and make this conversion through the steps and the journey, will you be able to help the industry? I don't think so. So you're going to have to get somebody that's already here, a group of individuals that's already here, to work on that side to get these people to understand what it is. And that's going to be a challenge in itself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're not going to put that kind of effort into it. They're not going to bring a bunch, 2,000 vape guys. They hired 330 friggin' people for the FDA just to do 8816 stuff, and they haven't done a shit. They're not going to bring in 500,000 vapors to say, as a committee and an enforcement agency, to say, go out and let's do this right. And then what? They're going to bring on a couple of more people, tack them into our group, and say, okay, you learn from them, and then the world's going to be a better place. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah, and the other weird part about it is they're not really necessarily always going to look at the health effects of it either, because the FDA, granted, the FDA has doctors in it, but that is not their job.
Yeah.
So, because if that was the case, doctors are not supposed to do any harm, they would have never passed cigarettes ever through the PMTA. And half the stuff that's on the market right now, whether it's something you put in your body or on your body, they would never approve. A lot of times they're looking for consistency. Are you consistent with your products? Does it meet the lab marks every single time? Do you make this consistent? Is it in a sterilized environment? Does it have a risk for E. coli or certain things? The big group you're looking for to study this is going to be the CDC. If the CDC comes out and says there's no effects, there's none of this, then that's a different thing. But the CDC has no say over the FDA. And neither does the FDA have any say over the CDC. So you're dealing with two separate forms of government, one who cares about health and one who cares about, is this product going to cause well-known health risks?
Yeah.
And is it consistently made and made in a clean environment? And one who actually cares about your actual health. And those don't work together, which is a problem.
Yeah, you bring up a valid point, right? Because you got one committee that cares about whether or not they can trace back the source of an issue back to one specific thing. And then you've got this other group that's basically saying, well, does this meet standards? Right. So, I mean, and they don't talk, it's like the FBI and the CIA. They all got their own fucking agendas, they're all on different tracks. So it is a frustrating idea to conceptualize.
Well, let me ask you, Nick, do you think as the PMTAs go through and some of these companies do get the ball rolling, do you feel that's going to send a positive message to some of the other guys to get their shit together? Or do you feel that's just like them saying, we can't? I see the smile. Do you feel that these guys are just going to say a step away? We're done.
You've already seen any positive.
I'm sorry.
Was that?
Will it send a positive message to anyone else to step into this industry? Is what I'm saying. Will this create more jobs, more companies when the PTA start rolling out and companies start getting approval?
More than what we have now? No. I think we're going to have less. We've already seen people step away and just give up and throw their hands up. Yeah. See, with our industry, we started out as a grassroots industry. Tim mentioned it earlier. I think Maddie mentioned it. And we started out as a grassroots. So we had no barriers, right? So most of our industry are survivors, right? They're the kind of people that are going to go out and do what they have to make a buck. They're hustlers. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, they're grinders. They work hard. They're going to go make money. And you see it, and everybody right here sees it, and everybody listening and watching sees this, the change, right? They're dropping out of vapor. They're going into other alternative products, for lack of a, I don't want to get too specific, but alternative products that aren't vapor. It could be sanitizer, candles, apparel, Delta 8, CBD, and glass, and dabs, and everything else. The list goes on. But you see that people are moving on to that. Now, once these guys get PMTA, it's still not going to be an open door. If the PMTA process does happen and enforcement does happen, which is still up in the air. Will they ever get through all that paperwork? Probably not. Will they give up before they ever do? Probably. They'll, create some other thing. And I don't want to be negative. And I hope. I bought 2 e-liquid lines before we stepped into this whole process, and we've submitted. But I just don't see it being the standard and growing and flourishing in my lifetime, to where we're going to be legit, where we're going to be regulated in a responsible manner, and where we're going as an industry to be as big as we once were.
Yeah. Well, another question is, we talked about this before here, and I forget who, I think it was Patrick brought it up, and a couple other people that we've had on the show, is companies leaving the United States and manufacturing overseas and selling their product back here, which will not get regulated. You see that happening more? I mean, I'd like to get your take on that.
Leaving here, selling their product overseas, and coming back?
No, leaving the United States, manufacturing their product, say in the UK, and selling their product here in the United States.
Like China.
Without having to go through PMTAs. That's going to happen.
No, it's going to try to happen. Again, it can't happen without enforcement, right?
Yeah, without enforcement. I mean, I don't know of any company that I've dealt with that that have spoken of going that route, but I can see where a couple companies that are just, hey, we can't afford $150,000 or $500,000 per flavor.
Right.
I'd rather take that $150,000 or $250,000 that I have, move to wherever, start manufacturing.
But isn't that ultimately part of the loophole here, right?
Yeah, that's the loophole. That's part of the loophole. Because even if they say, okay, this shit doesn't pass PMTA in America, doesn't mean that, and we talked about this last week. I mean, I could sit there and go, well, I love Jam Monster, but is Jam Monster going to be able to sustain the breadth of the line that they put out? Now, I don't like everything that they do, so if they got rid of the custard line, I wouldn't care too much. But I guess my point is if but if they took like all of the other stuff that I really do like, which is about the other 90% of their line, they could take it out of the States and I could still get it into the States from overseas. They don't have to pass a PMTA over there, right? So, I mean, it doesn't mean that we're SOL completely. It just means that the thing that we want to continue to do just becomes exponentially more expensive to maintain. Right.
Am I wrong? Right? Out of the ballpark?
You're right on the. Go ahead, Nick.
I think you're right. Again, and this will work unless enforcement comes, right? It all boils down to how serious are they about doing it? Are they just trying to scare people like they did at 8816, where they scared the industry away, and now they're trying to weed it down a little more so they can try to get to a reasonable regulation stand with a limited amount of companies? That's kind of what it seems like to me, and I might be totally off base, but
what's your short view of what the transition of the industry like in the short term? Because one of the questions that comes up with a lot of people, whether they're in the Example Box group or other groups, is what's the immediate impact to me? And you've got all these varying opinions that go from like, well, stock up, panic buy, get all your coils, and some of us do that because I think we exercise caution. We're like,
Mhm.
what? But then you have these other people that are they're very cavalier about it. It's like, they can't get through all that paperwork. There's no way they can possibly enforce that. We'll be safe for the next couple of years. Don't worry about it. And what I like is people who have spent time in the industry to give their opinion on what they think the immediate impact is to, people that are watching or people that, that are like, I have no idea what the hell's about to happen.
Well, what
Tim,
was it that Connolly said?
That's a hard
How many pages that was sent into the FDA,
300
excluding heart?
something.
Yeah, but and I
that's a
get
lot.
that, Brian, and I agree
Yeah.
with you. I mean, if you inundate a limited contingency to regulate that or police it or do something with it, and they're overwhelmed, you're right. You're going to have some time to buy. But my question to Nick is that we have. I'm not asking for an answer. What I'm saying is that people are asking questions. So, from someone who's experienced, who's closer to the veil, what do you think the immediate impact is to the vaping industry? And does that mean people can buy their stuff online? Can they still go to their local vape shop? Should they worry? What's going to happen to those people?
The consumer.
I think, when we're talking about certain rural communities, they need to worry because they have limited amounts of access, right?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to see in Atlanta, for instance, you're going to see a big difference. This is all my personal opinion. I don't think this is going to be a big shutdown, like boom, it's off, that's it. We're not going to see that. We may see some people get made an example of. We may not. I'm still waiting again for 8816. I'm waiting for the example. All we keep getting is threatening letters and cease to desist and no real action, right? So I don't think our community is just going to stand up and start regulating themselves and walk out. I mean, we're seeing people leave, but that's because they're tired, right? And I think our consumer is still going to have access to these products. We still have access to some of the companies that have left, for crying out loud. I mean, they're still around, right?
Yeah.
So my opinion is I don't think we're going to see it. Now, I'm not a professional. I'm just saying that I'm looking at it from an objective standpoint, and I'm not shutting my doors. I am, however, a responsible business owner. I try to do my due diligence and put people on my shelf that are PMTA, not registered, but accepted. People that I talked to months ago that said, "Hey, are you planning to do this?" Yes. Okay, I'll keep you on my shelf. So I don't have to dump them. Now, will some shop owners see, "Oh, you didn't file, let me dump everything"? I hear shop owners saying, "Well, I'm going to get rid of it," but they're just being responsible, right? So they're getting rid of 5 lines, but they have to get 5 new lines. So I don't think we're going to see from a consumer standpoint that people are just going to lock their doors and go away and go, "Well, okay, tomorrow morning we're going to wake up on the 10th and it's going to be, oh, well, they're not around anymore. E-liquid is not here. So, oh, well," that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So you think people will go ahead and push the envelope as far as they can?
Of course, it's our industry, man.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. No, it's an honest question. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm speaking probably a little bit to the collective here, but there are probably a lot of other people that can identify because there's tons of us who have been around for a while. I mean, I'm not a 10, 11-year vapor. I'm more like a 7-year vapor, but it's probably fair to assume that we'll have our channels or our outlets to survive, whether it comes down to DIY or finding that guy with the trunk full of stuff that just kind of got thrown in the dumpster, right? So, I mean, there's that. And then you have these people that, we're trying to onboard to the whole experience. And I see it in groups today. I read comments all the time like, "Hey, I'm finally making the switch." And you want to like raise the double pump fist, like thank God you're going to do it. Yeah. And you hope that someone kind of says, "Well, hey, this shit's about to happen. Come with me." And I worry about those people. And that's why I asked the question, because I feel like that's a large contingent of our community, are people that are newer or more green to the industry. And they're like, "Well, what happens to me? I don't know the guy with the car with the trunk full of juice,
Right. And that's awesome. But yes, I mean, that's who we're focusing on, right? Is the the new conversions and the new converts to stay with the product. I mean, that's what we're about.
Yeah.
I think we're a ways from the guy with the
Trump. Well, some states are there already.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, talk to Matthew Elliott; he'll tell you.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about those states, but I'm talking globally. I mean,
yeah.
And even still, those guys have a longer reach. I don't know what they're doing as far as new conversion, but we do know that the people we converted from the Cigalikes and whatnots into our vape shops, those people are going to be out there. But I've got an e-blast system. When we do get the hammer gets dropped, all we got to do is text them and say, hey, here's where you go, online, whatever. And I think we're going to be able to do that, and we're still going to have access to the product and stand outside restaurants in the smoking areas and discuss with people the benefits. Right? They can't put a gag order on us, so we may get back to where we were with more conversions. I don't know how that's going to work out, but it could be something where we end up getting out into the community more and sharing the benefits.
I find it's kind of funny that how some states work it and some don't. Like, I mean, some states seems like they just want to get rid of the vape shop, like California. California is gonna say, yeah, go ahead, you can order it online. We just want to. It just seems like they want to get rid of the shop, and it's just
but do you feel like that's a misnomer? Like they're using that as a guise to feed into their argument, like 13-year-old kids just walk into vape shops casually and just buy juice.
10 or 15 every day. I got 10 or 15-year-olds walking every day.
I think that is our politicians are too old, too outdated.
Well, Newsom's not that old, but he's an idiot.
But he's probably been in politics for a long time.
Yes.
And the thing is they are outdated with the people. And the fact of the matter is that when I was a kid, and I'm the youngest on the show, and when I was a kid is not the same as kids are today. I mean, so I think that sometimes they go, oh, well, when I was raising my kids, they didn't have this kind of stuff. They would have just gone to the convenience store walking home from school. And they would just go, oh, well, they would go out and play with their friends. And I think sometimes they think that these vape stores is really where they're going and getting their stuff versus realizing they have these things. And these things is where they're getting it from, not from some vape store.
Well, remember when we started the show a while ago, I didn't even realize that these kids were buying pot and drugs on Snapchat. And I was just like, I was informed of that. I was like, oh, they don't need to go to a corner store anymore. They just get on Snapchat. They can buy stuff right there. I was like,
the same thing happens. The same thing happens in the four walls of where they go and get educated. I mean, they got kids at school who are getting access to universal or like those universal pods that fit the jewels, and they're injecting those things with whatever concoction they can come up with, and they're selling them out of their backpacks for $5 a pop. I mean, it's not coming from the standard channel. So even if they want to do a study of how many shops or gas stations or whomever got busted, and John, you and I, we've talked about this several times. Do the math. Take a 14-year-old kid who gets an allowance. I mean, now I might have gotten $1 or $2 or maybe $5 if I mowed a couple lawns. But nowadays, let's even synthetically model and say, okay, well, they get $20 for doing this or $10 for doing that. I don't find that they could sustain a standard vaping habit even on that allowance. They're gonna have to get it under the covers. Anyway, I'll shut up.
Oh yeah, we talked.
I'm a talker. Sorry,
we talked about just the jewel, the money that a kid needs to supply himself with the jewel and a 2 cartridge. Fuck that, 2 cartridge.
Yeah, what, 4 pods are what, $15, $16?
How does a parent not see? I mean, my kids are in their mid-20s, okay, and one's going to be 30. But if my son was spending $280 a month, I know what the hell he was spending $280.
Yeah,
a
like
month.
even if you gave him a prepaid debit card and you're like, that shit's supposed to buy you honey buns and a cheeseburger at lunch,
Yeah,
and you're broke, and we're only in week 2.
here in week 2.
What the fuck?
I had
You
to buy
know?
18 cartridges, Mom, today. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what blows me away. It's just like the non-vapor that's saying, "Oh, this is hurting the kids." They don't realize that until I explained it to them. Like a lot of my friends on my Facebook page, I was like, "Do you understand how much this device costs? And do you understand what the cost is to have a two cartridge a day habit? I mean, your kid he's got one hell of an allowance. That's all I'm saying."
Or they
I mean,
Yeah. I just go ahead, Madison.
or they have a really rich friend, because I've seen that a lot of times. Remember when you were a kid, there would be a group of kids who didn't have a lot of money who would hang out with really rich friends, and they would go get drunk with them and
Oh,
all
yeah.
sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't really seen the breakdown, or if they have a breakdown of where they see high concentration of kids with these e-cigs, because I'm curious, is it more in the burbs you're seeing it, or
I
the
think
more
there are studies
affluent
about that. There
in
are studies about that.
in
I
the
think it was in the burbs. It was in the burbs.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, though. If it's more in the burbs than it isn't in, a more poor area, or, not in an affluent area, I mean, of course, these kids are probably getting it from a rich friend, and they're not getting it from, their parents,
It's
which
the
takes a lot of control.
Karens from the suburbs.
Well, I had a question kind of from earlier when I was Tim kind of touched on it a little bit. I kind of had a thought, because like I got to go in and get like a yearly like physical and all that stuff, a yearly checkup. But my question is mainly like, okay, let's say we get approved via via the FDA, and let's say things are actually approved by them. Would it be possible if the doctors say, "Hey, since these are FDA approved, we can help you now"?
Good question.
Mm.
I would say
Question
we
to
need to
Nick.
get narrowed down. How many? If you, I would think that if you had an overwhelming abundance of approved product, or which it would be, I don't think you'd be able to channel it in unless the insurance companies allowed it.
Yeah,
Can you
that's
imagine a Jam Monster pen at the doctor's office?
Well, no. So who's is it a Vail that actually got the approval? Was it a
Vail.
Vail? Right.
No,
So-
they take the next step, right?
Yeah, it's
yes.
not.
So
Nothing's
wait.
actually approved as of yet. It's
No.
past
They
the steps.
they advance. They go to the
Advance to the next level.
the
Yes.
testing phase.
Yes.
So then here's another good question for Nick, because he'll have a great opinion. But so a Vail gets approved, they go to the next step. So they might be to some degree sort of the pioneer, or at least someone who gets a foot in the door. So they go to and they might get rejected. We don't know. We have no idea what the final outcome is. And John even brought it up. He's like, well, don't throw a lot of credit to a Vail, or like, sing their praises, because they're kind of bedfellows with big tobacco. But do you think that even if that is the case, that a company like that who is able to sort of open the door, does that provide the indie vape industry to kind of finally get their foot in the door as well?
Mm-hmm.
If they allow substantial equivalent, I think it's a benefit, right? I think there'll be a positive to it. I just don't know what would be approved, right? So without that being known, anybody being approved would be a positive.
Yeah.
If they go through the acceptance, then approval, then boom. And
Right.
I would hate to see every big tobacco stakeholder go through and none of the true vapor grassroots people go through.
Yeah,
But so to say that, I would not like to see that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly, and I'm on the side of, this is a homegrown industry, right? I mean, it came from a general concern to defeat sort of big tobacco. So I don't want to see anyone kowtow to that. I think what I'm trying to say is that sometimes someone with the leg that can get in there opens up the door, because what we're really looking for is a predicate, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're hunting for, right? Right now, nothing exists. So we're all up against that one big wall. So if we can get somebody who's got some coin to get beyond that wall, then maybe that energizes other parts of the industry. Not to sell out, not to say, hey, I'm Jam Monster. I'm going to sell out to Philip Morris. You know?
Jam Monster a lot of plug today on the show.
Right?
Sean and Sonny are gonna love you.
Right?
They're gonna be all over that Tim Cheddar.
I don't want to show you my shelf over there. You might think that I have some bias.
Tim's gonna have like a deal going on here in next week.
I want an endorsement. God damn it!
Tim gets answered by Jam Monster.
Yeah, Tim Swift.
Gonna have a new banner behind you next show.
I think that my fear would be is that they'd get in there, Tim, and then they'd shut the door.
Yeah.
And
we got about 30 minutes left of the show. We're going to do a segment with Madison on CBD and dosages and CBD edibles. If you want to stick around for that, Nick, you're more than welcome. If you got some insight, but we get a lot of questions on CBD. Go ahead. Yeah.
I have no insight on CBD.
Okay. Well, we get a lot of questions. I get a lot of emails about people wanting to start CBD and their doses and edibles and stuff like that. And we have an expert in Madison here. So this is like her part of the show.
Yeah. So my advocacy background is actually cannabis.
Yeah.
It's
your brain. I'm going to link up with you because I need to learn about that stuff. I'm hearing more and more about CBD.
Yeah, anything from CBD to medical marijuana to medical CBD to just recreational marijuana. Yeah, it's been my advocacy since I was probably 10, 12 years old.
Hothead.
All the way,
This is CBD, so we're not
same
That's
plan.
exciting.
So, but Brian, that question you asked, I was going to ask a follow-up question before we get into it. Are you talking about once it gets FDA approved, you could go to a doctor for treatment for it? Like, are you talking about like saying like you want to see the benefits that's coming towards you health-wise, or are you just talking about in general?
Okay, so it's kind of a loaded question. I kind of try to dumb it down a little bit. There's kind of a couple parts here. One is my curiosity question is, could we see the industry full back 100% back to where it was in 2012 to where we actually had to decide if it's medical or if it's non-medical? And so if it's FDA approved and if doctors actually say, hey, this is actually better for you, you should just quit smoking, and you can use this to help you quit as a sensation product, could we go back to that phase again?
The only
or
that happening isn't going to be the doctors. It's going to be the pharmaceutical industry to buy out section for themselves.
Right. Then that's the second part is, let's say a doctor says this stuff is actually FDA approved. It's okay to actually use. But when people who make juice, I don't know if any of you guys have ever made juice before, e-liquid, I should say. Basically, the products that we actually insert into it is actually from certain places that the products actually used and FDA approved already. Those products actually are in food substances, and different food, ingredients. They're already approved.
Aren't we there already? I mean, aren't we already at that level?
But okay, right. But the thing is, though, is that it's not made. It's made for consumption, not inhaling. Inhaling is considered consumption. So, like, that's where the different loopholes come into play. It's how and why derived. So, let's say an e-liquid manufacturer does something very, very simple, like just VG, PG, one little flavoring. We'll just say strawberry, for instance, and nothing else super complicated about it.
From Jam.
Right, or Jam Monster. So let's say that something like that super simple gets approved, but something a little bit more complicated doesn't, because of different variances. Could you see a doctor saying, okay, you can use this one is actually better for you, and here's why, because it's less complicated.
Nope.
And here's that. Like that's kind of my question here. It's kind of a little loaded.
something that they could prescribe. So a doctor can't actually tell you what supplement to take or what supplement not to take because it's technically not something they can prescribe to you. They can just simply say, based off of studies, that if you have these pre-existing conditions right here, I don't recommend taking any vitamin B12 supplement. Or because you have this MTHFR gene mutation, I recommend you taking this particular folate, but they can't tell you what brand to take. So like in the CBD industry, like a doctor could say, yeah, we've seen great benefits for CBD with people who have anxiety issues, but they can't sit there and say, I recommend you take Charlotte's Web.
Right.
They can't recommend you to tell that. They could say, hey, there's a few of these brands out there. Maybe take a look and see which one you want. They can give you kind of like an overall guidance of it.
Right.
But because it's not pharmaceutical grade, they can't prescribe it. They can't do it through the insurance company. They're not going to take a risk for it because then they're going to get some medical malpractice. I'm saying, he told me to do this particular brand right here. And guess what? I found it had a huge recall in it and I got super severe sick and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And he wasn't legally allowed to prescribe you it. So that's not, I don't particularly see them doing that unless Big Pharma decides to step in and
well, I'm not saying a brand. I'm saying, for instance, like we could say, if doctors say, okay, if you switch to this, like using, say vaping products instead of smoking cigarettes, could that be a very big door for us? It's kind of like the bottom end of the question.
Well, that's almost getting to where Australia is going towards.
Yep.
You're basically having to have a prescription for your vape.
Yeah.
And that would really suck if everyone had to go to a doctor to get a prescription, which is, you get three refills. Can you imagine that? Getting a prescription with 3 free?
I think that's going to depend on the doctor because I've gone to the VA before and they have always been more, or at least the doctor I've had has always been like, vaping depend on the doctor. But I think that's just going to depend on the doctor you go see. They might say, yeah, go ahead, do this as a smoking cessation based off of the studies. But I don't see every doctor going out there and saying, yeah, you should vape versus smoking. I see them saying this, you should quit smoking and vaping as being the conversation.
Not name a brand or a specific device or anything.
I see them saying, oh, it's a tobacco product, get away from it. That's more along the lines, at least with knowing the healthcare industry, I see them doing that.
Yeah. All right, CB talk.
All right, go for it, CBDer.
Hey.
So you wanted to go over dosages. So this
would be kind of cool, Nick. You got a question for her, CBD? Ask her. This will get you started, Madison.
Yeah.
Does it work?
Have any questions, Nick?
Does it work?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Is it a placebo or does it really work?
That depends on the person, and it depends on what you're treating and what you're taking. So some people see benefits for it and some people don't. And there have been tons of studies that have shown that it's not just a placebo effect. So like there's some great videos out there. Is it Cloud9? I think it is. It's a company in Tennessee. They have some great videos from doctors who've tested CBD on cancer cells and watched it eat. They've even put it in, they did a study where they had rats that had cancer, and basically they had the one set of rats go through chemo, one set of rats not do anything, one set of rats do chemo and CBD, and one set of rats just do CBD. And they found that the ones who did CBD as part of their regimen recovered from cancer quicker and stayed in remission longer. So granted, that's in rats and not in humans, but there's some really great.
Madison, not to interrupt you, but can you outline the types of cancer that you're talking about?
I don't know which ones they tested on. It's been a while since I've seen that video. It's probably
the ones that kill people.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm just saying. I mean, there's all kinds. I don't want to interrupt the spiel.
Well, even if you go on the DEA's website, the DEA's website even has a portion on there that shows some of the things that studies have shown with CBD and even just cannabis. But it depends on what you're taking. Are you taking CBD? Are you taking hemp oil, or are you taking medical grade CBD? Because they're all going to treat things differently and have different effects.
Yeah.
See, that's confusing to me about this whole thing. How do you, I mean, from a retail standpoint, how do you know what the hell you're selling?
Yeah.
We have our own. Well, one, we have to be FDA approved. So the whole vaping industry, the FDA thing, we already go through that process.
Every CBD company, or when you say we,
yes, and they actually. You're talking about the enforcement. So a lot of CBD products were not being enforced. They've actually cracked the whip down hard on CBD products now. So that whip cracking does eventually come. It's just they're really slow. There's actually, so in a previous show I talked about there's a group that does standardize for CBD, and the best way, in all honesty, if you're going to go look for anything that says it's third party tested, and look at the third party testings, because you're talking about a hemp plant. It's subject to mold, it's subject to formaldehyde, it's subject to pesticides going on the plant, and even just different ways that they actually process it and the oils they cut it with can make a huge difference on what you're dealing with. So I would say best thing to do is look at third party testing and see what you're actually putting in your body.
The follow up to that is, and then I'm going to leave you alone because I know you have some really important stuff to tell everybody. But if a retail shop owner was looking to bring in that product, would I need to go get a degree to do this? Because it's a serious product to be able to give to my consumer.
No, I mean my vape store. Well, so my vape store is very unique. The shop owner is grade A, 100% true blue hippie. He's amazing. I love him. He does his own glass blowing for all of his bongs. And their future is to move towards being an actual dispensary here. So they sell CBD products, and not a single one of those guys in there have any type of degree. They are your traditional vape shop owner, true blue, whatever. I don't own a business, so I have no idea how to do it. But I have a girlfriend who sells CBD. She sells it through an MLM company, and she has no degrees.
Well, I understand this is what I'm saying. How long is it going to take me to, if I were, a shop owner that wants to carry this product, how long would it take me to be able to sell it in a smart manner to where I'm not just making a buck, but I'm also educating and giving the consumer the right product for what their ailments are?
I don't know. I don't sell it, so that one's a little bit hard for me.
Yeah, well, that was the question that I was going to ask, right? Because I mean, on the surface, it's like if I put this in my store and it sits on the shelf over there, and someone goes, "I'm interested in CBD," and this is a simple question: is there like a CBD Bible that says, well, on the on the basic level, it can help you with this, and this. And then for these people, it's really helped with this, and this.
Yeah, Nick, if you want, I've got some great links I can send to you. Like I've got one actually that I was going to attach in here through my phone. It's called Daily CBD is the website, and they have a beginner's guide. And it has a lot about dosages, what it can help you with, body weights, all sorts of stuff, effects of different types of things, which is some of the stuff I was going to go over with, symptoms to look out for in case you overdose on CBD. There's a lot of
overdose on CBD.
Yeah, you can. To a certain extent. It depends, and it depends on which one you take.
Yeah.
But I would suggest
you couldn't overdose on it.
I mean, I guess it just depends on what kind of business owner you want to be. I mean, I guess you could go and buy CBD products that are FDA approved and put it on your shelves and let people do their own bidding with it. Or you can do some research, I guess, if you wanted to, or find somebody randomly like me who can sit there and say, oh, no, that's not going to do crap for you. And you can sit there and you could put it on and actually have something to help most people. But a lot of people kind of really know a lot about CBD. Like, it's not an unfamiliar topic to a lot of people nowadays like it was 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest problem right now is people are lost on dosage. That seems to be
Storage.
That's what I get a lot of emails. It's like, okay, John, I see the benefits on other people, but okay, you take this much, and you're 205 pounds. I'm, 5'4", 150 pounds. I shouldn't be taking the same dosage as you. I get a lot of emails on that, and that's, I think, what's stopping a lot of people from trying it, because they are afraid of, overdosing or not taking enough
types of things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, if you wanted, Nick, I could probably dig up a whole bunch of different resources if you really wanted to read about it that could tell you about dosages, storage, things like that, but also how it affects your brain, why does it really work with the brain, and different types of things. Even I have a whole entire thing that talks about the different type of ways they distill it and how it's actually manufactured and processed, and the standard or the organizations who produce out the standards for CBD. So I've got a bunch of links I could send you.
Is it something you would take if you have if you're not in pain or any of that?
Anybody could take CBD. I mean, CBD has benefits all around, from insomnia, just wanting to feel relaxed. Most people think CBD is going to get you high, and so they're a lot of times when they're like, "Oh, it's not working," it's because they're looking for that high feel, because they go, marijuana equals high, but CBD is not that same part of the plant, and it's not going to cause you to get high. A lot of times, if you're taking it at nighttime, it can make you feel nice and relaxed. If you take it during the day, it can make you feel energized, depending on how it reacts with the melatonin and the serotonin during the day or at nighttime. So you can get these different feelings that go with it. But that's the biggest thing, is getting people to get over this conception of CBD is from a marijuana plant, so I'm going to get high. That's no. Yeah. It's a completely different part of the plant. It actually really doesn't have any THC in it.
Yeah, and that's the other problem. They think they're gonna, like in my situation, I was always afraid that I would fail a drug test at work.
Yep. And there's different types. You've got isolates, you've got full spectrum, you have broad spectrum, and each one of those have different variants of THC. And by federal law, in order to be industrial grade CBD, which is legal to sell without needing the medical grade THC, has to be less than 0.03% THC in it.
Right. I heard that.
And that's what you're going to be full spectrum CBD.
After the 0.29 or whatever is full spectrum, and you will pop on a test?
Kind of almost anything that really kind of has THC is going to be full spectrum or broad spectrum. But your isolates, majority of the time, your isolates are the ones you're going to see that are THC free. And they each do different things. So depending on if it's an isolate, broad spectrum, or full spectrum, is going to treat a different array of different things because it has different cannabinoids in it. So if it's an isolate, it might only have a few different cannabinoids. If it's a different type of like broad spectrum or full spectrum, it might have full spectrum will have every array of cannabinoid in there. So depending on what your ailment is going to depend if you want to take isolate, broad, or full spectrum.
So somebody 230 pounds, she has bad knees and insomnia. What would you recommend? What milligram?
So that's kind of where it's going to go into. There's a whole math actually on how you calculate this. And then it depends on how you take it too. So CBD is a lot of times, sometimes people feel the effects right away and sometimes people don't. I always say start on the small dosage, work your way up is always the best way to go, because what might work for me might not work for you, even if we're the same body weight with the same problem. We're all different. We're not cookie cutter. So I think it's gonna kind of depend, but this is kind of like a broad overview. So there's a whole math on how to do the dosage of this. But the big thing I wanted to talk on was there is a symptom of taking too much CBD. And those symptoms can be tiredness. Now, of course, if you're actually tired and you take CBD, it's going to make you pass out. But a lot of times I've heard people, it'll make them pass out because they were already tired. But if you're taking it in the beginning of the day and you got well rested and you're taking it, and you might be taking too much if you're feeling sleepy. It can cause diarrhea, nausea. It can change. You can have change in your weight or appetite if you take too much of it. You can get dry mouth from it if you take too much. You can even get low blood pressure from it. So those are kind of the symptoms to watch out for if you're taking too much, but you really have to take a lot. I think the human body is something like 2,500 milligrams of CBD is like really way too much for you. So you have to like be really rich to be able to get that kind of dosage in your system for the day. There's a couple of different ways to take it. You can take it orally, sublingually, inhalation, and transdermal. And most common forms of oral, which is going to be the edibles we'll talk about, your tinctures that you put underneath your tongue, or you could put the tinctures in like food, which would be the oral. And then there's inhalation, which is vaping. And then the transdermal, a lot of times people get lotions with it, or the bath bombs. They have CBD bath bombs for it. Oral takes about 30 to 90 minutes to hit your system, and it can last up to 4 hours in your system. Sublingual takes 5 to 20 minutes to hit your system, and it can last 4 to 6 hours. Inhalation, so by vaping, 1 to 3 minutes, and you'll feel it.
That's crazy.
And it lasts 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Transdermal is 1 to 3 minutes, and it can also last 4 to 6 hours. So if you take a nice little bath bomb, you're going to feel relaxed in that bath very quickly. So the way to calculate, so on the bottles, have you ever seen the CBD bottles, Nick?
Yeah, the 30 mil glass? Yeah.
So they'll have different labels on it. So if you look at a 30 mil bottle, for example, you might see one that says 250, 500, 750, 1,000. I've seen some go up as high as 2,500. Yeah,
Right.
something like that. So in order
7,000.
2,500, I think, is the highest I've seen.
This
One.
company called Green Gorilla had 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah, they could. So so it's not 7,000 per milligram. Instead, what you do is you take the mils you have in that bottle. So if it's a 30 mil bottle, and let's say you have a 500 milligram thing, you would do 30 divided by 500 milligrams, or 500 divided by 30 milligrams. That's how many milligrams you're going to have, per milliliter. And every single eye drop, which is usually about, like the eyedroppers, is usually about 30 drops in there or so. So if you wanted to see how many drops you needed to take, you could take the milligrams that you had calculated down and divide it by the drops that are in there. So you could divide it by the 30 drops, and you'll know how many of those eyedroppers you need to take, or how many drops from that eyedropper in order to know what you need, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah,
it does. And I've heard people dosing with full droppers that's usually around 1 mil. Is that the wrong way to do it?
It's roughly, yeah. So 30 drops is roughly about 1 mil, and which is usually about one, tincture size or one dropper full. So
is that a common dose around there?
Is it what? How many doses?
Is that a common thing where somebody fills one of those, a milliliter, and does it?
It depends on how many milligrams you get. So if you buy a bottle that has 500 milligrams and you're like, oh, look, there was a great deal for 1,000 milligrams, you would not take the same dosage. You would have to half it.
Right.
So like if you started out with 500 and you felt it was good, but you were going through the bottle too quickly, you could decide to get like 1,000 milligrams. Just don't take one full dropper. You would take 15 drops instead of 30. Because now, especially if it's the same bottle size. Now, if you go to 1,000 milligrams and it's a 60 ml bottle, versus the 30 mil 500 bottle you bought, then it would be the same dosage. So that's why it's kind of important to take the milligrams divided by your milliliter bottle. Will tell you exactly how many milligrams are per that eyedropper. And then you can get a good gauge on what you want for dosage. So for dosage for a person to take, there's like a whole calculation with your body.
Do the one that Nick suggested. What was it? The weight and height.
So depending on your ailment, so I'm going to do this in
You
our
said knees.
and not ours. So if you're considered somebody who needs a lower dosage, which I recommend everybody start in the lower dosage anyway, it's going to be 1 milligram for every 10 pounds of your body weight. So if you're 250 pounds, then you're going to take 25 milligrams per day, and you can divide that up. It's not 25 milligrams.
Right, you can do like I do mine. I do one in the morning and one at night.
And so, right. And so if you're looking at doing it sublingually, which lasts 4 to 6 hours, you might want to take that 4 times a day. Or let's say you want to take it 3 times a day, or however often you want to take that 25 milligrams, divide it by how many times you want to take it per day. And then that's how much of the dosage you need to take between there. So I guess if you were doing 25 milligrams and you want to round it down to 24 because I hate odd numbers. And you were like, okay, I only want to take it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. You would do 12 milligrams in the morning and 12 milligrams at night. So if you bought 1,000 milligram 30 mil bottle, that would be, let me do the math real quick. That would be 33 milligrams per 1 milliliter. So if you only needed to do 12 of that, that's where you could divide the drops, and you get 1.1 milligram per drop. So you would only need to do 12 drops in the morning and 12 drops at nighttime.
Damn, vaping is much easier.
Right?
Just vape that.
That's if you want to take it orally and stuff. Yeah, and it's even going to be the same with vaping. So they do make like just vaping e-liquid just by itself, or they make what they call boosters.
The boosters.
You can put a boost into your nicotine juice.
Right.
And basically you could put your milligrams already there and then just vape it throughout the day.
Yeah.
So it depends
never heard
on how you
about.
take it. And most like
You haven't heard of those, Nick? You haven't heard? Yeah, that's been out for quite some time. I forget some of the bigger companies' names, but I don't want to name any names.
I've seen when I was on eJuice Direct, I think it was eJuice Direct the other day. It was one of them when I was doing my Panic e-liquid buy. When I was on there doing all of my wonderful buying of flankers, I saw a lot of big name e-juice companies are now selling CBD products. So kind of a little bit interesting there. So I wonder if some of them are not going to go away because they have this as a supplement to it.
Yeah, I wonder how that works now. If they add to see, it's still a flavor.
Well, it's different though because they have to go through the supplement process, not the tobacco process. So it's a little bit different because we're not
actually, actually, I have a question about that. So let's say they add CBD to their liquid and get that approved. Could they take the CBD out since it's already like partly approved and add the nicotine to it?
We are some sneaky businessmen.
Because no CBD product has nicotine in it.
Right. But if you take the nicotine out, add the CBD in, it gets approved. You already have 7 to 8 of that approved already.
I'm going to say this right here. The cannabis community has been fighting for several hundreds of years for recognition, and we finally made it to this point. Let's not destroy it for us, okay? Because now you're going to deal with a really bunch of
wait, haven't we crossed that precipice? I mean, isn't CBD like sort of globally accepted?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of floats in that
Yeah.
in that THC
Yeah.
realm, right?
Yeah,
You
so
gotta think.
the vape shops have been helping out the CBD world now. It's
Yeah.
time for the CBD world to help out the vape shops.
Well, you think about it. Marijuana's been
the
fighting
vape shops
longer than
came
any of
over
the
while
other
the
ones.
Days go on.
You think about it, and marijuana's been fighting longer than all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Even
Trust me.
alcohol. Even how it outdoes alcohol. They've been fighting over cannabis since the beginning of this country in 1700s. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, even almost every hemp product from
before
hemp
the alcohol
clothing.
prohibition.
I mean, you know how brainwashed they had these people that if you wore hemp
Yeah, you got
clothing, they thought you were a pothead, that you were
Yep.
going to get high from the hemp
Oh, yeah.
clothing. I mean, that's how far they had this country brainwashed with it. And we had to reverse just clothing.
Yeah.
Clothing.
Yeah, you think about it. Your guys' fight has been going on for several hundred years.
Yes. And we and we've gotten crafty with it. And
You guys are the loophole kings.
exactly. And here's the thing, though. They say potheads are very unmotivated people, but you know what? I don't really think that is actually true.
I actually disagree with that, to be honest.
In a few hundred years, we're gonna be legit, guys.
Yeah. We'll be able to buy flavored. We'll be able to buy that cheesecake flavored vape.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it could be shorter if CBD helped us, and then it would be good, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. So I did the low. So there's the medium one, which is 3 milligrams for every 10 pounds. And to be on the high side, so that's like the really severe cases, like, you're suffering from epilepsy or, that's like the really, really high side, very like fibromyalgia, those types of things. Somebody's fighting cancer, that realm. That's going to be 6 milligrams for every 10 pounds. So, and if you're in the metric system, it's going to be 4.5 kilograms. It's going to be I did that just for them. So it's going to be 10 pounds for us Americans, and everybody else is 4.5 kilograms.
Lettuce.
Their lungs are different too, especially in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would always start small, work your way up, and I wouldn't go, oh, it didn't work today, so let me boost it up and double it tomorrow. No, I would take it for a week, see how you feel in a week, and then start adding slowly onto it and make it very slow and stretched out. A lot of times, I mean, I've had some people, like, I belong to a severely autistic community because I have a child who is severely autistic, and he, I've seen people in there where they've given it to their kid, and within a week their kid's behavior is really good. And I've seen it where it's taken 6 months before they started to see the effects on their child. So this is sometimes not an immediate turnaround. Sometimes it's one of those things like you kind of have to stick with, almost like vaping when you switch from smoking. You still have that urge, you still have those types of things, and you still have to battle your way through until it becomes, where you feel the effects of it being nice. It's kind of the same way where you just have to stick with it for a little bit to really kind of see. I just wouldn't start off with 6 milligrams every 10 pounds thinking your issue's severe, and then, it's not going to go too well for you. So CBD, there is a couple of different ways to store it. If you're vaping it, I would just store it pretty much how you store your vaping products, or like in a cool, dark cabinet somewhere.
Not on the window shelf next to the sunlight.
Exactly. If you have the tincture form, I would definitely store that in a fridge is the best way to store it. CBD oil can stay good for up to a year. I will tell you, CBD, when it goes rancid, you will know. Sometimes it smells really bad. Other times you just take like a little teeny tiny drop. Like if you're questioning if your CBD oil is good or not, take a teeny tiny drop, because I'll tell you what, you will taste how rancid it is very, very quickly. That is bad CBD oil. Toss it out, get yourself a new bottle. I've not encountered bad CBD vape, so I can't really honestly tell you what it tastes like if it's gone bad, because usually if I get the vaping version of it, I go through it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It tastes like crap.
Even with the flavor of the vape, you still
It tastes like flavored crap.
Tastes like flavor crap. It tastes like cheesecake that's been in the garbage for like 2 weeks.
Oh, it's worse than that. It's absolutely
That
She's
somebody
trying to make a
sprinkled-
sales pitch, John.
That
You don't
somebody
have to go
sprinkled
there.
tobacco leaves on
A
it.
baby
Exactly.
pepper after a baby
Good gravy.
Indian food. No.
And then too, yeah, if it smells, if it tastes rancid, throw it away. If you're doing edibles too, I would recommend putting them in the fridge.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like me and you don't have AC in your house, gummies ain't gonna last you very long.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to go over a little bit, so people about what they wanted with these whole edible things.
Yeah, the edibles are the big one right now. Everyone is just going, can I eat a whole bag?
Well, so here's the thing. Technically, yes, you can eat a whole bag of edibles. Would I recommend it?
Hold on, Madison. When every time that person asks me that question, I say the same thing to them. Do you eat a whole bag of fucking Doritos?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
don't eat a whole bag of
I do.
Doritos. In one setting, a big bag of Doritos.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Obviously, you have not gamed enough, John.
Yes,
No.
no, exactly. The
Not
thing
very
is
many people eat a whole bag of anything.
I
And to
wouldn't
ask-
recommend it because there's a thing called diabetes. Although CBD
Yeah.
has been shown to help lower blood sugar
Yeah.
and helps a lot of people with diabetes by helping to lower their blood sugar, I still wouldn't recommend it because let's face it, the crap that makes gummy bears is absolutely completely disgusting and toxic for you.
Yeah.
So the cancer you're trying to prevent, you're also putting in your body. Hence
putting it-
my sunscreen debate. So the thing about edibles, so that's that oral thing that I was talking about that has that, 30 to 90 minutes to hit your system, lasts up to 4 hours. So that's going to be chocolates or gummy bears are the most popular forms to buy it. It's an interesting debate. So edibles don't really hit your system very quickly because you have to digest it through your whole system for it to actually get into your bloodstream, and your body digests food pretty slow. Now, if you have a faster metabolism, it might hit you quicker. It might not. That's why it's kind of 30 to 120 minutes for edibles because it's really kind of up in the air if it's really going to hit you quickly or not, depending on your digestive system. The interesting part about edibles that I was reading about was on an optimistic side of a study that they did. Your absorption rate for edibles is 4 to 20%. So if you're taking a 20 milligram gummy bear, or let's say 100 milligram gummy bear, and your best thing is 20% absorption, you're only getting 20 milligrams. Your body at best is going to absorb 20 milligrams of that 100 milligram gummy bear. And the thing is those gummies are expensive.
Yeah.
So, and it's not going to hit your system very quickly. Now, it will last longer in your system. The effects will, but it's going to hit you really slowly. It's kind of like, now, if we're talking edibles for medical grade
Yeah.
or for
Hold on.
like
Hold
marijuana, that's
Hold on, Madison. Hold on a second. Nick's got to go. I want to say his goodbyes, and you can finish your.
Yeah.
Long-winded woman.
Yeah.
Nick, we want to thank you for coming on and educating us and giving us some answering some of our questions. Tim's questions are really hard to answer sometimes, and Brian goes long. I mean, really long. I mean, and it was great having you. Anything you want to say? I'm not good at goodbyes on the show.
I want to say thank you. I'm not good at goodbyes either, but thank you guys very much for having me on. I appreciate you, and thank you for asking those questions. I gave you my opinion. I don't have all the answers. Please understand that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of, some of the things that I feel, and they are only my opinions, and there's a disclaimer for you. But, I hope that, we as an industry can move forward together, and make things happen before, 100 years, get our shit together and start making things happen, in a positive way. Yeah. But it was nice putting, a name with a face. And Maddie, I'm going to be reaching out to you very soon because I need help with all that stuff you're talking about. And it sounds confusing, but I sure as heck hope that you can help somebody like me through it to understand what it really is, because I have a lot of people asking about it and I don't have answers, and I don't want to give them the wrong response.
Yeah, no, it sounds confusing, but it's really not once you kind of get like into it and you kind of start reading and playing around with it. It's not. I do have a couple of friends who do sell CBD in stores that I can also ask them for like references or things like that, or maybe link you up with them that could also help you out on the business aspect side. I just don't sell the product, which is kind of nice because I'm not bound by FDA. I can say whatever I want because I'm a consumer.
I've been using it for about 8 months now for my restless leg syndrome. I haven't had restless leg syndrome in 8 months. And
but it hasn't helped your memory at all.
But my memory is what it is. But I've had restless leg syndrome since I've been 15 years old. And this is,
can I interrupt this conversation for just 1 second?
Yeah, go ahead, Timmy.
I have one more question before the man leaves.
Oh God! Everybody sit down. Sit down. Everybody sit. Relax.
Right. So I just want to know, Nick, is Orlando your legit last name because you live in Florida?
No, I knew it. I knew it.
It's actually Alderman.
Alderman.
Okay.
See, I was right when I said
It's not important. The point that I want to make is
it's Orlando. It really is. I'm just screwing with
that. And Swift. My middle name is not two, but the last name is legit. It's Swift. My last name is legitimately Swift.
And he's related to Taylor Swift.
Before he leaves, I just want to say thank you, Nick, for coming on the show. Yeah, we love having people like you here to speak advocacy and talk to the crowd that we're communicating with. And it means the world to us. So sometimes when we get off on tangents and we joke, it's not to lessen your impact. I just really appreciate you being here because you mean the world to us. And thank you very much for sharing your insight tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Also, if you have a link, or Brian can post your link in the chat, Brian, and I will post it in on the YouTube channel because I know it's separate from the YouTube and Facebook for his podcast. I guess you can call it a podcast, right?
Yeah. Yes. If you want to send that over to me, I'll make sure it gets broadcast out.
Yeah, make sure we get it on there for him.
Podcast.
Yeah.
You're on a live show too, right?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, a live show?
This is a live show.
Not this one. You're on another one. You do other shows too, right?
Yeah, the one you did earlier.
Monday 20 stuff like that.
Yeah. Anything that you want to promote, give it to Brian, and Brian, we can post those. Like I said, we can post those on there.
I appreciate it. But
we appreciate you coming on and
I subscribe to you guys, and I want to keep watching you, see who you have on. And I saw you had Gerlitz, but you know.
Yeah, we need.
I almost didn't want to come on because he was here, but he did everything.
We got to build the show up, Nick. Yeah. We got to have impact guests.
Yeah. Next one's going to be Jay. I got to find out if I'm related.
Yeah. I personally,
you took the donkey, man. You pulled me in here. You must have been bored.
Nah. No, the whole main point of having you on is first of all to congratulate you with Florida. It was a big success, and that was a major part of it.
Yeah.
And
that's what you got.
You know, and I want to thank you for all of your support with the vape industry. You've been everywhere, and we truly appreciate people like you. That's what the show's about.
Big time.
I appreciate you guys, every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maddie. Right. I'm sorry I have to cut out. These guys are on my phone for a while, man, and I got to deal with it.
It's all good. You can message me anytime. Yeah. I mean, I work during the day, but you can message me, and I'll get back to you with some links and references.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom?
Thank you again.
You talk so much, man.
They never let me talk.
No.
Tom was quiet tonight. I don't know. Maybe he's got.
Tom is our redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, Tom, are you having girl issues?
Always, but that never affects this.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm taking up time.
No problem.
You so much, guys.
Thank you, Nick.
I appreciate you guys.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
Good evening.
Be good, man.
All right, Madison, you may finish. Sorry about that. He needed to go. He needed to go. So.
No, that's perfectly fine. It was kind of nice seeing him after watching him on his show today. So, So edibles.
That's the big one.
Yeah. So the thing is edible CBD versus the concept of people thinking edibles as hashish, going to Amsterdam, brownies, this and that. So that's more medical grade stuff. That stuff you have to be very, very, very careful about because so just kind of like absorption rate
like
and
a little milligram could knock you on your freaking ass.
And the big problem with that is like, okay, you remember, Thousand Eye or not Thousand, sorry. I'm thinking of work right here with monitoring tools. The Long Island iced tea, how it has like, what is it, like 10, 11 shots in it?
Yeah.
And you drink one of them and it's so good and you're not feeling anything. And so you keep pounding down. And the next thing, an hour later, you're like on the floor, like, oh my God, what happened to me? That's kind of what happens to you if you do medical grade CBD edibles or THC version edibles, because the fact of the matter is it will hit you so late. You will have consumed more than you thought you could handle that you can't handle. And that's the big problem when people think about edibles. CBD side, it's not really going to hurt you the same way. If you do consume more, you might feel uncomfortable. You might be a little tired, but it's not going to do the scary things that people think about edibles.
Well, on the bags, on the gummy bags, it has to have it, right? All products have to have a serving size or a serving.
So it will just tell you how many milligrams per gummy bear, because the fact of the matter is the math that I gave you,
right?
Really what your dosage is. Your dosage is so uniquely set to you. Just like even when you go to a doctor and they give you Tylenol, little kids remember the Tylenol, only 1 ml, 2 ml, 2.5 ml.
Cut in half.
Body weight. Right, exactly. And they go by this body weight and they dilute it down and so on and so forth. And that's really going to be the same thing with CBD. Kind of think of CBD as almost a prescription medication, except it's not. It's a supplement. So it's uniquely a little bit different in that thing. But CBD gummies, I think, are great for a treat, but they're not really something you should take consistently. I think they're great with children because children...
Easier for them to take it. They think they're taking a Flintstone tablet.
Exactly. You think you've got a child who has...
You remember those, Tim?
Or a child who has anxiety issues or something of that nature, and you want to help them out, and they really can't do very well with the tinctures or anything like that. Gummies might be a way to go with them. I've seen a lot of autistic parents use gummies for it, but for adults, I think it's a great way for treats. It can get really expensive, and the thing is you're talking a 4 to 20% absorption rate of this, and so that's not a lot. 4 to 20%. You take 100 milligram gummy, best you're going to get 20 milligrams from it, and that's really not that much. And it's not even going to hit your system right away. It's going to take anywhere between 30 minutes to 2 hours to hit your system, depending on where you go with it. Now, oral, so the oral form of it, or sublingual, usually the very hey, it's how it's actually written.
Said oral.
Yes, is 12 to 35% absorption rate. So it's a much higher absorption rate. And this is all done by the same study. They did a study on these 3 different variations of how you can take it. And that takes, the oral takes 10 to 30 minutes. The sublingual takes 10 to 30 minutes to hit your system. So you're going to get a quicker hit. Yeah, it might not last as long, maybe by an hour, whatever, but it's going to hit your system quicker and you're going to be able to absorb more of it. So, and it's cheaper to buy.
Yep.
So that's...
I can't imagine. I can't imagine trying to give like a 6, 7-year-old or 10-year-old to sit still so you can drop some CBD on their tongue.
So my oldest is 11, and he actually does
good.
Good with it. And there's creative ways to do it. Like I said, you could put it in the belly button. You can also
blows me away.
It's transdermal at that point. And then the other way too you could do is you could do it. They make coffees with it. They make creamers with it. There's so many different ways. You could even put it in their yogurt for it and stuff like that. Is it going to be as effective? Is it going to hit you as quick as taking it sublingually? No, but it's other variations on how to do it. It also depends on your budget size. Now vaping, the fun part about vaping is vaping is 34 to 56% absorption rate.
Yeah.
And it takes 1 to 3 minutes to hit your system, and it lasts in your system about just as much as if you were to take something sublingually. So for us,
That's the best way. Would you say that's the best way to take it?
well,
As
I've
an
never.
adult, as an adult. Just the way it
I
works.
think as a vapor, it's a good way of doing it. And I mean, I know some non-vapors who do pick up these CBD pens, and they will do it that way. I think it's not a good way to start because you don't know your dosage. You don't know how your body's going to react. When you feel like your body feels good and you want to start experimenting with edibles or with vaping products with it, then I would say, yeah, you could do that. But you have to keep in mind, you put that in there, it's going to seem like a very small amount. It's going to hit you quicker, and you're going to absorb more of it.
Yeah.
So I would
have an extra tank with that stuff, man. You know, you just switch tanks on your mod.
Oh yeah, or you could get a little bit of a booster and just put that booster inside of your tank. You would have all day. I mean, I have vaped CBD before, and trust me, if you are a vapor, you're not going to really want to have that be your all day vape because you're going to feel it pretty quickly.
No.
And it's going to be a little bit on the dangerous side. I mean, I don't really see the point in edibles in adults except for just treats. They're really expensive. And you're really not getting your money's worth on it. But if you want to,
especially if you're eating a whole fucking bag in one.
Well, you know, the big question is if you're eating a whole bag of gummy bears, why not just buy actual real gummy bears? Better yet, why not you buy the sugar-free Hasbro gummy bears at that point?
Oh God, no! We do not endorse sugar-free gummy bears on this show.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Have you read the Amazon reviews? Well, it's the same. It's the same symptoms if you overdose on CBD. So, I mean, that's kind of where I go with that. I mean, it's not food, it's a supplement. You wouldn't take a whole entire bottle of gummy vitamins, which by the way, doing
that bottle
is incredibly dangerous and can cause a lot of organ damage.
He dusted it.
But so you have to treat it like as if you were going to take a vitamin. And stuff like that. Like it is actually a supplement. It is not food.
Right. Yeah.
It's
that's
not like your vaping product. It is an actual.
It's just the same thing. I told my other friend. I said, you know, you don't take, you know, there's no reason to take 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C. You know, there's no reason for it. You're not doing any good. Your body can only
is it milligrams or micrograms?
Yeah. I mean, you don't need that. And
you're gonna have expensive pee.
Yeah.
Because it's water soluble.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if people just keep in the mindset there that it's just it's a supplement that you're doing, start low, start with something that's easy to manage, which is the tinctures. Find out what you like, find out where your dosage is, and then go out and explore. Now, if you're just like, I just want to get some CBD gummies just to try it, go right ahead, but I would only take one.
Okay, for that person that says that and they want to go out and just buy a bag of gummies, CBDs, is there something they should look for on the package that could concern them? Is there something they should look like? Should they be looking at the milligrams per gummy bear, or should they, what on the package should they be looking for?
I think the majority of the time they're pretty much all cookie cutter with the gummies. I don't dabble in a lot of gummies because I don't like them. I think they're pretty much all cookie cutter, but they're going to be the same way. They're going to say something like one gummy bear equals X amount of milligrams.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the way of anybody who's going to buy any CBD product, one, make sure it's FDA approved, and two, make sure that it has third-party testing.
Yeah. So don't buy any gummy bears from somebody that made them at home.
I mean, you could, but I would buy it from a person who knows what they're doing. Because I mean, I do have some friends who do make CBD and also who make like canna butters and things like that too. but those are like, some of them are actual chemists, and some of them are nurses, and some of them they own their own dispensaries. Like me and Doyle have a friend in Montana who actually owns a full-blown farm and dispensary out in Montana. And so it just depends on who you're getting it from, just like would you buy your DIY liquid from some newbie vapor, or would you buy it from, Matthew Elliott?
Okay, I hate to cut you off, Madison. We'll have to talk some more about this, but we got about 6 minutes before I cut this show off. So, who wants to go first? Raise your hand. Who wants to say goodbye?
I'll go.
Yeah, I knew it. Hold on.
You're gonna give me focus?
No, I'm gonna move you. Go ahead, Timmy.
All right, so I'm in the middle. So my first thought is I want to extend a heartfelt apology to everyone who lives in this world who has to deal with TBD, because I've had to deal with TBD the last week, and here it is. It's called a 2 mil tank.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how fucking pissed off I am that I got to fill this motherfucker up every 5 fucking seconds.
Well, what do you got? You're vaping that 100 watts or what?
No, I'm at. Well, hold on. Let me tell you.
75?
I'm at 95. So
oh hell yeah! You're taking 2 pulls and it's gone.
Yeah, and this is the 30 millimeter Trilogy RTA, and I admit I'm having issues. It's leaking a little. Yeah. It's leaking slightly, and I can't purge. So I look like a weirdo, and I'm like, I look like Trump drinking a glass of water.
Oh, like, well, why are you still purging anyway?
Well, here's the thing. I tried to put 4 millimeter coils in there, and I set them based on what they recommended, and I bent them over, and when I put the cap on, it bent the coils down. Yeah. So I was like, damn, that shit ain't working. So when I tried to take them out and cut them, it didn't work. So I got 3 millimeters in here, and there's not enough cotton to clear the holes. So, yeah, well, you know how that goes.
Yeah.
It leaks a little. Anyway. Sorry to all the UK people. TPD sucks. TPD reform. TPD reform. No, anyway, I could put the both. Madison, you all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought she was laughing a little too hard. Anyway, bubble glass might work.
Madison looks just too cute with those headphones on. That's
love her to death. Great woman. Anyway,
our Princess Leia.
So I apologize for all the TPD people in the world. Other than that, great show. Thank everyone.
Wow, there goes our 6 minutes. End it, John.
Madison, go ahead. Let me move you.
So my girlfriend watched the show that I work with, so she loves the headset too.
We all love them.
Like glittering and stuff. She's probably still watching. So
tell her to say something.
I guess for me, the follow off of what Nick said on his show, take that governor's letter, send it out to your governor, send it out to your mayors, get that governor's opinion. He gave us a great ammunition, like he said, for us to be able to fight, because we have a politician who basically laid it out brilliantly for us and has backed up what we were saying. If you live in Illinois, we really, really have to get this contained, because we know Chicago runs Illinois. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at that bill starting to move its way and Illinois getting that flavor.
Hey, Madison, where can anybody get a copy of that letter? You want to anybody got a link?
Brian had a link in the
Brian.
He put in our chat that he put it out. But yeah, if you're in Illinois, if you're in Chicago, we really got to work hard on this, because what happened today was out of left field and scary. Yeah. So we gotta tweet, get on it. So
thank you, Madison. Tom, you're up.
You put me right back where I was. Damn it.
No, you're right there.
No.
Middle. It's just the middle.
I was comfortable in my spot.
Oh man.
Okay. I want to take this moment to wish a happy birthday to a friend of mine. She just turned 31 today. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday. You wanted me
Hopefully-
to sing it like Marilyn Monroe?
No, we're not singing nothing. That's why I didn't say nothing till now. Stop it. Stop it. I will send her to your house and she'll beat you.
Okay, no.
I want to thank Nick for being here. And Brian, clean your damn desk.
That's it.
That's it.
All right. Brian, you're up. Oh.
First of all, I want to thank everyone who came out to DC. It was a great time. I met a lot of great people that was down there. It was an absolute blast, not gonna lie. For those who didn't attend and did a lot of tweets and emails and phone calls and all that stuff, you guys rock too. Not gonna lie. It was absolutely just a blast to be there and watch. If you don't mind, I can share a few pictures that were there.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Bam. Yeah.
I took a few pictures. I'm not going to show everything I took because I showed John earlier. It was quite a lot. This is all from the event of the people that were there and how things were set up. Met quite a few, like I said, quite a few different people that were there.
There's the man. Go back. No, I'm kidding. Nobody knows but me and you who that is. So
Right. Great speakers. Try to take as many pictures as I could. People who spoke. Demi and Phil were there, which is great. Great speeches. I don't know what else to say. It kind of lights a fire when you're there. To kind of do more, push more, and do a little bit more as much as you can. So yeah, it was such a great time. So thank everyone who did as much as they could.
there's me.
Yeah.
Thank you for being there, Brian.
Yeah, thank you for going, Brian, and representing the community.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick, for coming on. It's an absolute blast. Congratulations to him and his family that's down there. And thank everyone who's watching. Sorry, it was a little long.
All right.
And I got sunburned, if you can't tell.
Yeah, and you got the raccoon.
Yeah. That's what happens is take a guy from North Dakota and put him down in the place that actually got sun. So
that's it. The sun is
You were on an island, Brian, and we
No,
apologize.
not that island. That's a whole different island, man. I'm gonna be crisp when I come back.
Oh, well, I also want to thank Nick for being on here today, and for the state of Florida. That's amazing. Hopefully, that helps some of the other states realize that we can work together and come up with a plan that works for both parties. None of us want kids vaping. I mean, there's nobody in this industry that wants kids vaping. I don't want kids vaping. So there has to be a way that we can work this out. And I know it's about money, and it's about funding, and it's about getting the proper people in the right spots, and getting the lobbyists and basically, unfortunately, having to teach a lot of these politicians what this community is about, what this product's about. And I think what Nick did, it was smart, and I think more people need to do that. I think if you do get an opportunity to sit down with your state representative, I mean, I don't think that's a bad idea. Take 4 or 5 products with you, and show that guy how it works. Hey, this is a closed system. This is a Juul. This is an open pod system. This is an RDA, and let him see it. I think that was really smart on his part, and I think maybe we should start doing a little bit more of that, because I think some of them are taking the time to educate themselves on our product, but I think a lot of them don't really care, how it works or what it looks like and or even so much of who's using it. They're doing what their lobbyist is telling them to do. And unfortunately, those all lobbyists are working for the Karens of this world, and they want to kill this industry without proper facts. And, it's sad. Other than that, I always want to thank you guys. You guys are awesome. All of you, even you, Tommy, You're the best. And what else? Madison, thank you again. You're a CBD legend with your pinky headphones there.
I just posted 3 links inside of our chat.
Great girl. She's the best.
One is for that daily daily CBD I was talking about that has dosages. Another one is a CBD dosage calculator that will do calculations for you.
Okay.
And another one in there is it's called Hemp Pure CBD. Is also a dosage chart that also breaks down capsules, lotions, balms, inhalations,
lotion on the skin.
and even gummies too. Where to start at for initial dosages.
Yeah, perfect. And then somebody can get that link on there for the that letter. I'd like to get the link for that letter. And those of you that have a Twitter account, this is an opportunity to use that letter. Tweet that letter. Tweet it to your state representative, your governor, whoever, anyone, even your. I think some of us, my mayor has a Twitter account. I don't really go on there too much, but it wouldn't be bad to start locally as well. So that's about it. We had a great show. Thank you again, Brian, Tim, Tom, and Madison. You guys all, as Tim says, you guys all rock. And that's the end of our show. Bye.
All right, bye.
Say goodbye. Everybody wave. Bye.